started the Network of African Business Women. It's an interesting discussion to always come through the African Women Agribusiness Network. Yeah, I always tell people I am a proud farmer. Back in the day, farming was always looked at as for people who have failed. When they're putting pictures of farmers on like magazines and brochures, the people who are tired, very old looking, like they do not even enjoy what they're doing. But we should be changing the face of farming because, first of all, you've partaken of farming. You've eaten breakfast, right? Okay, even if you didn't eat and you're fasting, at least you're dressed, right? It's either silk or cotton or whichever fabric that you're wearing. That is part of agriculture, and therefore we cannot be able to go away from farming. Ladies, I'm not here to talk for the entire day, but before we start, I would like to request to have someone who is willing to lead us in a word of prayer, a volunteer. Who is volunteering to lead us in a word of prayer? I'm still looking around and waiting for a hand. For someone to say, I'm here, I'm ready to. Yes, we have a volunteer already here, so come through. Let's take on the word of prayer before we get to start our deliberations today. You can let us know your name, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Anne. Let's humble ourselves and pray. We glorify your name, Lord, for this moment. It's not by power, not by might, but by your Spirit. We humble at your feet for wisdom. We thank you for everything that's going to take place and commit it to your hands. May we leave this place a changed generation to your glory in Jesus' name.
Thank you so much, Anne, for that beautiful prayer. And that, of course, is now setting us into the discussion that we are going to have. All protocol observed. I will be letting you in on some of the dignitaries that we have, but all of you are dignitaries in your capacities, and thank you so much for honoring our invite. Let's get our opening remarks coming in from Miss Joyce Atwede Onegwa to speak to us. Let's give her a round of applause this morning. You need to feel at home by these remarks that are coming through in just a bit. Joyce is the project country coordinator of WLFI, and she will be telling us more about the project and how far we are. Are we meeting the goals?
Thank you very much, Mildred. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joyce Atwede Onegwa. I am Onegwa by grafting. Yeah, I ended up Onegwa when I went to West Nile. I'm the project coordinator, Women Leadership, Financial Inclusion and Economic Recovery, but also I'm the chairperson, African Women in Agribusiness Network. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to feel at home in this room as we discuss, as we share about women leadership and financial inclusion. The project is funded by the Graca Machel Trust and the Bill Gates and Melinda Gates. It is the project that is going to run for 3 years. So far we are in our first year. And it's all networks, it's going to be implemented by all networks of GMT in Uganda. As you can see there, it is implemented by New Faces, New Voices, as the technical lead, African Women in Agribusiness Network, and Women in Media, a network of African women business. Yeah, the project has goals. We are basically focusing on the building and institutionalizing a collective African women leaders and networks into economic recovery. And we advocate for gender inclusiveness, especially in the economic recovery. And we also want to build a critical mass of African women leaders in key economic sectors. where we know that women, as they take decisions, the issues of women will be put at the center of every decision that is going to be taken as they are up there. We also want to enhance the participation of women in financial regulatory places. If there's a woman in Bank of Uganda that is able to take a decision, then the issues of women will be put at the back of every decision that is taken. I was impressed when I went to UDC and I found that almost 70% of people that work with UDC are women, and I believe that women are being considered so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah. I feel at the end of this project, at the end of these 3 years, we shall receive some, even in this room, we shall receive commitments from all of us that will be considerate to women issues. As I had shared before, I've already moved beyond there. As I have shared before, we are almost towards the end of finishing our first year of implementation, and we have done some milestones. We have conducted a review of digital financial models, and I thank New Faces, New Voices as the technical lead. They have the findings. My colleague Wada will be able to share as we are moving in the session. And we have also conducted a review of women representation in the task force. And it was not, when they were putting up the task forces, I think women did not take a bigger percentage. So our findings were shared in the previous meeting that we had last month, and I think towards the end of the project, women shall be considered. We have developed the gender mainstreaming standards that will be shared, and we need some commitments from all of us so that women issues are considered. And the project is supposed to have 3 roundtables, and so far this is the very first roundtable, and I believe it shall achieve most of the things that we need to achieve. And this first roundtable of the 3, the purpose, the main purpose why we're in this room is to secure some commitments that will consider women economic recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, so far this is where the project has reached, and allow me at this moment to welcome a very important lady, a giant lady not in size, but full of wisdom. That is none other than Dr. Theopista Nantale, the CEO, New Faces, New Voices. Thank you very much.
The breakfast wasn't enough. I had to have coffee. Where is the You know, no matter when they said giant, I look at my size. And it's okay, I'm a grandmother of 4 someone. It's allowed to be this side. In my world, I say praise God. For those who say the same, praise the Lord. It's such a beautiful morning, and some of us are lucky that we are alive. I got COVID 4 times, and the first one, I was actually put in the sitting room for people to wait for me to breathe my last, but I give glory to God that I'm alive. So if you are one of the survivors, you can give a big applause to the Lord. And one of the good reasons to have a good MC, you actually don't have to introduce certain people. There is a way she rounds it up, but I just want to thank everyone that turned up this morning. For some reason, this season is too busy. I don't know whether I also have the same invitations for weddings, invitations for meetings. So sometimes I wake up in the morning and say, which one should I go for? And most of the people here are the same. I'm so grateful for Medit. Representatives from Zanzibar, thank you so much. KCCA, Kasita, there are some of those people that are our supporters. But without intending to be rude, I just want to know if there's somebody from URA here. Because the question was asking me and I wasn't sure. Anyway, we know that they will come. Sometimes I write, but when I get to the audience, I just speak from my heart. Because this is so personal to me. But I just want to introduce to you our chairperson of New Faces, New Voices, Frida Wamana. I'm so proud of her. She has never been an MD for one of the financial institutions. So when Frida is there, I talk less. Thank you so much, Frida. Like Mildred said, Gracia Machel Trust has different arms. So I want to introduce the other head of NABO, Florence. Florence heads the NABO. So if you're a business person, please invest. We have Hilda. Where is Hilda? Hilda heads the women in the media. And Joyce heads the women in agribusiness. And without reading this long speech, I'll just give you a background, because I was the first person to introduce the Gracia Machel Trust in Uganda. And Mrs. Machel was very clear on her agenda. She said, when you are financially independent as a woman, then you have room for choice. That is a very strong statement. When your wallet is smiling, it's very easy to walk away from even an abusive relationship. Yeah? You have room to say no to certain, sometimes the South African in me comes out. People who know me well, that's why I spent most of my time, studying and what. So when I use harsh languages, don't think I'm being insensitive, but sometimes I get so annoyed that I use such language. So that choice element was very important. That's why she started with women in finance. That's why most people who talk about Gracia Machel Trust relate the trust to women in finance, because she believes once the finance is done, then the rest will follow. Yeah, the agriculture will be in line, the businesses will be in line, the media. And media is so important. In our last meeting in Pretoria, Mama Machel said something that I want everybody to take. Most of the women, including some here, will do so much, but will wait for somebody to talk about them. It is very important for us to learn to talk about ourselves. If you have done something good, share it, talk about it. Yeah, I have one of my friends in the background. I didn't know that she had left banking. She would have, broadcasted that, hey, look here, now I have a consultancy, I'm doing this. So most of the women have that weakness, and I want to urge women that when you have done something, feel proud of it, please talk about it. But we have a theme. Me and Mildred attended about a week ago when we were celebrating the International Women's Day for South Africa, which somehow is celebrated in August for some reason. And we agreed on one thing, and that's what I'm requesting everybody here today. When you are going up, carry someone. Because if we are to live this world, we want to live it in a way that our children will be more comfortable than us. And like I always tell people, kindness there's no cost to it. You don't pay for it. So that is now my other mother language. I like people to be kind. I like people to carry each other. I like people to support each other. And in this network, what we do best is to make sure that we support each other, because somehow the ecosystem is complementary, not competitive. So I'm very honored. Those were my names, Topista and Tale. I'm very honored to welcome you today to our inaugural GMT roundtable. the third in a series of activities that the Graça Machel Trust country networks have been holding under the Women Leadership and Financial Inclusion. The 3-year project, which is being implemented in at least 7 of the African countries, aims at building a collective of African women leaders and women networks to influence policies and interventions that promote inclusive actions and recovery in Africa. Thank you to each and everyone for being here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, the GMT Network Roundtable is held in a context whereby countries are recovering from the coronavirus pandemic. It comes at a time of great disruption of women businesses. The COVID-19 health crisis notably had a severe economic and social impact on the economy of Uganda, and women's business have been particularly affected by the hardships unleashed by the pandemic. Businesses continue to struggle to survive, keep their employees, get resources, access capital and credit, which has resulted into deepened social inequalities. And for people who are gender experts like Susan here, Susan is from Makerere University from the gender department. When we talk about social inequalities, it is too huge. We cannot tabulate it in this meeting. COVID-19 situation is a stark reminder of the need for tangible and coordinated cooperations across public and private sectors across borders, of the need for establishing measures to mitigate risks associated with catastrophes which affect women in the economy. Why are we talking about coordinated? Why are we talking about tangible? We have had a lot of interventions, personally, based on the different organizations I serve. And other countries are doing it better than Uganda. And as the person on this side, I would request people to try and do interventions that are coordinated, instead of having, scattered interventions. The same people doing the same thing, but naming it sometimes differently. So there is urgent need for a coordinated approach where we combine public and private sectors. We certainly need to become more resilient for the future. Surely, most of us were caught unaware. Our efforts to help women recover from the crisis are an opportunity to put in place a different post-COVID world. A world that is more equitable, digital, and social inclusive. It is also a time for a great push for commitments to minimize standards, to minimum standards for mainstreaming gender in all the fields. And I want to thank UNDP for sponsoring the gender equity interventions in the different corporate institutions. Reducing the gender digital divide by cutting down costs for accessing and utilizing digital products and services is top on our agenda. Building skills and capacity for women in the economy, formulating and adopting gender equality policies, and developing organizational culture for gender equality. This will create a conducive environment for entrepreneurship to serve as a clear opportunity for women's economic independence and empowerment. Allow me to say a few more words on digitalization. Addressing the digital gender gap is a must, and that is why we are here, and other countries like Kenya, Zambia, Zimbabwe, other African countries are far ahead when you look at the access to digital platforms. The coronavirus crisis showed us the importance of being digital to be resilient to the crisis. Digitalization of the economy is now an integral component of the economic recovery plan across Africa. The new technologies have become an essential tool, allowing women in the economy to deliver during the post-pandemic phase. New technologies can offer numerous opportunities, and companies that have become competent and move quickly in this area, which will have strategic advantage over their competitors in the post-pandemic economy. We need to find a way to take advantage of the opportunities offered by digitalization, allowing SMEs, large companies in the informal sector to benefit alike. To reap the opportunities offered by digitalization, we need to improve the digital capacity of women in business. AMD Kasita is here. I don't know why women are always, behind, especially including me. Somehow there are things I don't understand, and my 16-year-old son understands on that phone, on the laptop. To achieve our goals as GMT networks, we need political commitment from relevant government institutions, women leaders, partners, potential beneficiaries, and peers in the private sector and women. We hope to hear new commitments during this roundtable. Today's forum will show the whole world that government and other stakeholders have made political and financial commitments geared towards minimizing women's vulnerability during the post-COVID era. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to end here and say thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Teopista Ntalia. A bigger round of applause for her. She did mention very key aspects to pay attention to, and for example, when she talks about issues of coordination, sometimes we normally talk to government and tell them, you people work in silos. There's this department in this ministry, the same department in the other ministry. But also sometimes when it comes to the private sector, I think there is a bit of uncoordinated troop movements, and yet when we can be able to come together, we will do better. Like the saying is that if you need to go far, you go alone. But if you need to go further, you go together, you go as a group. You can't be able to walk quicker and faster by yourself, but when you go in a group, you might be able to cover a much longer distance, because alone, you probably will tire out and you will not have anyone to encourage you to continue along the way. But when she talks about financial independence for women, I think most of the ladies in the room can be able to nod in agreement that a woman who is financially independent takes totally different decisions from one who is not, because then you literally become a slave to whatever situation. Because at the end of the day, you ask who fits where the money comes from at the end of the day, and that is why we need to work to this financial independence, not in bad faith, especially for our brothers who always think financially independent women are hard nuts to crack. They're not. They just know what they want at the end of the day, and you need to talk to them as human beings. That's why I say that you don't need to look at a human being in the gender perspective, but a human being just like yourself, irrespective of what sex it is. I also want to kindly recognize these particular persons in our midst. Mr. Abel Mwesige, the CEO of Kampala City Traders Association. Thank you so much for sparing your time off the busy schedule. Like Teo said, Dr. Teopista said, there is just a lot happening, and you don't even understand how to deal with your schedules. We have Bishinyara John Bosco, who is the Director Gender, KCCA. Thank you so much, sir, for coming through and ensuring that you spare your time to come and have this discussion. We have Anna, the Country Director, Nomipa. Anna, it's a pleasure having you. Where is Anna seated? Thank you so much for sparing your time to be with us. Rosette Pamwine from Bank of Uganda. Very, very good pleasure to be talking to you at such a time during this economic crisis. We always look to Ministry of Finance, Bank of Uganda. The hard questions come to you. Nelson Mutatina, the Director Supervision, UMRA. Thank you so much, Nelson. Yeah, Nelson is seated right at the back. Thank you so much for sparing time, and all of us for sparing our time to come and be with us here. We do not take it for granted. And ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, allow me to invite Ms. Wanda Katende for a keynote presentation on the commitment for enhancing financial inclusion and women-centered COVID-19 economic recovery responses. What do we need to do? At this point, you will need to listen carefully, because if you have any questions to this presentation, we will definitely be taking on those ones. Let's give her a round of applause as she comes.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're all very welcome to this day. We're very happy to have you here. My name is Wada Achomo Katende. I'm the Deputy Country Director. I deputize that great lady, Mateo, Dr. Tobista Ntali Sechito. I'm very happy to be here today. And I thank our guests, Kasita, Central Bank, Numida, UMRA, KCCA. Thank you all for coming, and all our other partners. And UMRA, thanks for coming. So my job today, someone is supposed to display the presentation. So my job today is to share the preliminary findings of what is happening in the digital finance area. As part of this project, we were required to do a review of digital financial models in Uganda currently. And indeed, I have been surprised, we've been surprised by what is happening in this market. I'm a banker with 13 years experience in banking, and I thought I knew it all, but I've been surprised as part of the research team. So like we've said, I'm going to present the preliminary findings on the digital financial models in Uganda currently. And to introduce the research team, the team lead, Dr. Sarah Hasaba, is not here with us today. Probably she's in the maternity ward, hopefully. Dr. Tobista Sechito is part of the research team. She's already spoken. Frida Wamala, once again, you could just raise your hand for recognition, and myself, Wada Katende. And I'm here to share with you what we found out. This study started in May this year. So this study or review was commissioned by Graça Machel Trust as part of the 3-year project. Like the previous speakers mentioned, COVID happened. And when COVID happened, we realized that actually we needed to rely on our phones or rely on online platforms to get things done. And that even then, we couldn't walk to Kalera Market because we live in Chanja and had to rely on someone, an app online, to place your orders and have Matoke delivered to your home. So digital happened. It was there, yes, but the coming of COVID-19, or the happening of COVID-19, re-emphasized the need for us all to go digital. So as part of the 3-year project, the focus is digital financial models. There are different financial models, so the focus for my presentation today is purely digital. And like Joyce shared, this is under funding of Graça Machel Trust in partnership with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And what we're focusing on is like there are different players in the market, but we're looking at that service provider who will provide credit without meeting you. They don't know what you look like, but they will actually advance money to you. So there's no physical interaction at the initial stage. And then also, why do we want to review these models? Is it just for purposes of research? No. This is as a contribution to the financial inclusion agenda that we're all working towards achieving. Next slide. So what are the objectives of this study? One, to assess the nature and scope of digital financial models in the country. And specific objectives, ascertain the providers of digital financial products, assess the extent to which digital financial services support women-led businesses, evaluate the levels of knowledge on the existence of digital financial products in Uganda, and then review the regulatory environment. And as part of the study, next slide please. As part of the study, we applied, it was a mixed methods approach, both quantitative and qualitative methods. Qualitative in that we had one-on-one discussions with individuals, we had focus group discussions with various entities, and we were passive and followed the snowballing sampling method. Because the question is, if I randomly chose to have the team in here participate in the study, I'll find that the results or the findings will not be able to inform the goal or the objective of the study. So we're very passive. we had to contact particular women groups, business women groups. We had to contact women in associations and individuals. But once in a while, we also had to do a mix, 80-20 in a sampling size. So while we focused on 60 respondents because of finance, available finance and time, so we had 80 females and 80-20 percentage in terms of male to female participation. And like I've said, we spoke to members of Kawil, UWIL, Awan, Kasita, SACCOs, VSLAs, and then MFIs, commercial banks and telecoms, both the consumers and the providers, service providers. So from the findings, we started with online review, secondary review of data. We went online to try to understand what is happening. Because other than the traditional commercial banks that we know actually do deliver, I can walk to my bank and ask them, what do you have in terms of digital product? There were, in terms of the fintechs, we had very scanty information and we had to rely on online review or secondary review of information. And what came out of it is that there were players that were regulated or supervised by central bank and other players that fall under Uganda Microfinance Regulatory Authority. And we also got to know that among the providers, there were commercial banks, Tier 4 institutions, SACCOs, among others. And from a discussion, and UMRA is here, Central Bank is here, I request that we request you to inform the members that are here in cases there are shortcomings. This is more of a validation workshop to input into or to correct what falls short. So from the discussion we had with UMRA, that was last week, we were advised that there are 10 digital financial providers that are licensed for digital finance. But we were also advised that there are other service providers in the digital space that are not specifically under the digital finance area, but they do provide digital finance. But I was told to write a letter that I will send through tomorrow to get additional information. They will not release information unless I formally wrote. So who are these people? Who are the players in this area? Next slide, please. Airtel is my little friend. There's Wewale Quick Loan. You want something very fast, you want to buy airtime, you want to send a friend who needs 10,000 shillings or 5,000 shillings. On your small, it's Katoch, it's non-smartphone, you'll be able to actually access both Wewale and Quick Loan for Airtel. And then on MTN, you get more cash and more senti. And you'll find that most of the respondents were familiar with these two, because I think these have been around for a longer period. Then in terms of commercial institutions and those that are under UMRA, we have Center Mobile, Mobilon, Instant Cash, Advance Easy, Cash, Let's Go, Finca Mobile, Equity Mobile, MSACO, to mention just a few. And under the fintechs, this is where we actually had large gaps. We actually didn't have much information in this area, and we struggled with the fintechs because it was very, very hard to access them. So we had Numida, we have Longo, Quick Sente, iSente, Mara, Mango Cash, Dav Cash. And like I said, I was told there are 10 licensed, but from the research, online research, when you go to Google Apps and you go online, you will struggle to get the information. And you will come across those that are not actually Uganda. Some are from Brazil, some are from... So you have to sort out and see which ones actually apply to Uganda. But so far, the list will actually improve by end of this month. When we do our final report, we'll have a longer list. So what do these digital providers offer? The amounts range from 5,000 shillings to 50 million. Pre-approved, largely pre-approved. So you may not really decide how much you want to take. It may be largely pre-approved. Then the tenor runs from 8 days to 90 days. The interest rate between 10% to 40%, weekly per week, 40% per week, 8 days or per month, depending on what you've signed on. So it's mad, it's very crazy here. The processing fees range between 1% to 5%. But in certain cases, you'll find that the fintechs will not show you the processing fees. They'll call it the originator fee. Originator fee. So both the interest and the processing fee is bundled in there. So you can't tell which component is interest and which component is processing fee. Then the mobile money charges are paid by the borrower both on disbursement onto your mobile phone and when you are repaying. You cover the full cost of the transaction. Numida Anna will be able to substantiate on some of what I'm presenting. Early repayment is enabled for certain providers. Early repayment is enabled for certain providers, but not all providers. Like if you're due to pay tomorrow and you want to pay today, you may not be able to pay. You'll actually have to wait until tomorrow. But for some players, you can borrow in the morning and pay back in the afternoon as long as you pay the full interest. You can't pay less and say, you know what, I took the money for 4 hours. Can I return the portion for only today? No. If it is 80,000 for 8 days, you pay 80,000 at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Partial payments are enabled for some providers, but not all providers. For example, if the amount due is 400,000 and you want to push in 50,000 today, you will not be able to. The only option in there for some providers is that pay the full 400,000 on the D-Day. So from some of the respondents or the discussions we did have were that this is where I put bank, is the response is from the bank, is that the ratio of female to male consumers that actually access digital finance was 60% female and 38-40% male. Sorry, I wrote it wrongly, but it's the more female than male. Male are 60% and women are 38-40%. And then the age bracket of those who are actually accessing digital finance are between 41 and 50. I was unable to, we didn't have a chance to have a one-on-one discussion. We couldn't book the appointments in time, or the people were not available, so we had to send a questionnaire. I just needed to understand what is peculiar about this age group. I would think that would have more players in here at between 25 maybe and 35. But actually, we were given this information, it's 41 to 50 years. Why? Currently, I can't give an answer to that, but that's a finding. And then the reasons for decline were, one, you didn't have average savings on your phone, mobile transactions, or that there were very many applicants applying at that particular time. This was a response from the commercial banks too. And then from some of the feedback, we asked the respondents, what would it take for digital finance, for financial services to be more successful or to have a higher uptake? One was to institute rewards for consumers, those who are consumers now responding, ensure reliability, responsiveness, security, affordability, and ease of use. So in short, what the consumers were saying, that the providers are not reliable. That's one. Two, they are not responsive. Security, there were issues of security that I'll talk about ahead. And then affordability, the interest rates are crazy. And ease of use. The language being used is English. But then the question is, what happens to our market women who cannot actually manipulate or navigate their phones in English and require to access finance in their local languages, or at least in Luganda? And then there was need, there was a recommendation to have consistent marketing of available digital financial products, because some respondents had never heard about, they know about what is on the phones, but beyond that, they had no information at all. So the recommendation was, can we have more information going out there? Because the space that the fintechs use is online, largely. But then, how many people that would have actually participated actually go online to access? For you to get an SMS, you must have gone online, and probably they'll pick your number or you must have gone and clicked on maybe on the app to read something, then you will receive an SMS. But otherwise, SMSs are very rare in terms of communication. Then the majority of respondents fell in the category of degree, postgraduate, and doctorate holders. So I would assume it's a certain category who have gone to school and are exposed that will have more inclination towards accessing digital finance. This was followed by certificate holders and 22% and diploma holders. But ideally, certificate and holder is neither there nor there. The difference is very slim. So on our side, in terms of consumer engagement, when we were collecting data, 57% of the respondents were aged 31 to 50 years. This was based on the people that we targeted and who we were able to engage with. And then 86% of the respondents were female, but this was per passive. If we'd wanted to get the men, we'd have got, it was intentional that we get more women than men. And thank you, Abel. Abel was one of the respondents, so he's one of the male in this percentage. So 93% of respondents had bank accounts. So I think this goes a long way to show that a lot of work has been done into getting people at the lowest strata, including the market women, being able to hold bank accounts. Then, in terms of why do these people access digital finance, one of the reasons were our bias was towards women SMEs, business. But of course, you cannot decide what a respondent will give you as an answer. So what some of them said, top up on home use or household support. For example, I want to pay fees and have a shortfall of 200,000. I will access this and be able to meet a need at home. My child is sick, I'll be able to use this. Then others talked about day-to-day business activities. They borrowed to be able to meet business needs. And then solving financial issues, and then any emergencies arising. Because if you're at home at 3 o'clock in the night and your child falls sick, you will actually be able to get your mobile phone and access a loan. But no bank will be open at that time to give you a loan. So actually digital finance comes in to help out in cases where banks are not open or even the agents are not open. Then also to avoid queuing up in the bank for cash. Many as respondents found it very, very easy to access digital finance because you don't have to leave where you are and go to the next available agent or bank. So what are the benefits? Fast approval, 5 minutes to about an hour, depending on who it is you are approaching. So you save time in physical movement. No security required. You don't have to give in any land title to go online and borrow. Ease of navigation. The menus are very simple. Very, very simple. You just go in, you enter your name, your information, and you are there. Fast approval time. I've already talked about that one. Flexible loan amounts. These ones will apply on particular providers. Certain providers are fixed. You can't decide or you can't reduce the amount. For example, if the offer is 80,000, you can't say, no, I want 60. It's 80,000 and you take the 80,000. So there are certain providers that are flexible in terms of the loan amounts. The short tenor and availability on both smart and non-smart phones was also provided as a benefit. It's also secure. When you walk into a bank and there's a border man across the road, you don't go to the bank to say hello to people. The expectation is that you're either going to pick money or you've taken money. So you actually give yourself away as you walk into the bank, into a banking hall. So in this case, if I'm holding my phone and you see me play around with it, you will not tell what it is that I'm doing. I'll actually securely be able to do my transaction and without letting anyone know. It's an alternative channel for lending. It's quicker than bank borrowing. What are some challenges that came out of the discussion? Customer confidentiality. I'll say why. Now, when you click on a digital app, for whatever reason, whether you're reading reviews or you're trying to understand how they work, next day you receive an SMS from another provider. That means, in a way or another that I've not been able to, the team has not been able to find out, there's information sharing, or there is a trace somehow. I'm not a digital expert, I'm not an IT expert, but something is happening. There's possible misuse of customer information, possible because it's not confirmed, but as I go on to explain, to share, we'll be able to tell exactly where this possible misuse may happen. Then rude providers. Some providers are absolute rude, exactly the way I put it in there. Then there's limited knowledge on digital financial products across. There were many consumers who said, you know what is that? I know we're well, but what? If it is a quick loan, I sent it. What are those things you're talking about? They've never heard about these products. Then there were issues of network connectivity. On certain times, apps crash. They are not accessible. They tell you to try again later. Then small amounts issues that don't support business. This was also a response from the respondents. High interest rates, like I've said, some are crazy, 40% in 8 days, and you pay or die. Some of the terms and conditions are not easily understood. Supplier side challenges, there's limited knowledge on digital financial products by potential users. There's a risk of digital fraud. There's lack of in-depth analysis. We asked question on, we wanted gender disaggregated data, and some could not actually give us this information. Most of them were giving approximate figures on what it is. So we can't actually be able to tell in terms of how many men to women do we have financial inclusion, acceleration on the female side. We can't actually get that information because it's not being captured. Then there's a low client uptake, because I mean, when you invest in technology, you have the break-even point. So you need a certain number of clients to be able to make money. Say, you know what, I've put in an investment and I need this number to break even. So it's a number of them spoke about low client uptake. Then the high initial and service costs involved. Now, the next one. Next slide, please. I, as a researcher, went ahead and participated in actually borrowing online. I went into the reviews to get an understanding of what is happening. And there were comments on certain things that are happening and that are non-professional. So on a day X, I borrowed money. I would borrow and pay back. So we had a meeting at Umrah. So I said, you know what? I'm supposed to pay, I think, tomorrow, but I'm going to delay. I want to get an experience of the rudeness that they're talking about, of the unprofessional way. So someone says, hello, Wada. This is an SMS. And you'll be able to see who the provider is. Hello, Wada. Past today at 8 p.m., you won't be able to access loans from LoanGo again and other lending institutions like Mango Cash, since your NIN number will be flagged as a potential defaulter. Clear your loan as early as now to maintain good relationship. Pay us now, LoanGo management. Good evening, Wada. I believe sometimes things fall and do not come out as expected. Your loan has grown and you may find it hard to clear it all at once. It may look like I'm forcing you to pay before your due date, but rather advising you to normalize partial payments to ease your repayments. Thank you. Then we are glad to inform you that your loan limit has been revised and increased to 450,000 to 550 for 21 days with 10% interest. If you clear your pending loan before 5:30, last chance. Good evening, Wada. And these come like you receive one, after 2 hours you receive another message, another message. Good evening, Wada. Were you held at your work during the day? Take this evening hour as an advantage to clear your loan. Go now and get a chance to upgrade your account from emergency loan of 8 days to business loan of 420 UGX with a repayment day of 30 days. If you pay before 9:30 p.m., let's continue. The last chance. Good morning, dear Wada. As you have woken up and preparing to go about your daily business, bear in mind that today is your due day. At exactly 10 a.m. Pay now or else we call you a refreeze. Kindly endure with what will happen. Then I'll just keep this one. As I say, WADA, stop giving lame excuses for not paying your loan on time. You still have another chance to clear it. Your loan is overdue and you're in danger zone. Be a responsible client and pay us now. WADA, we don't find it pleasurable to keep reminding you of your mandatory duty. You have bluntly ignored to pay your loan. And some of the messages came 4 hours after I had paid. I wanted to try them and get to see what is this experience they're telling about. But let me tell you, after this, I would not even recommend anyone. I would not. It's bad. It's bad. So they kept on sending. So I said, okay, fine, let me try the customer service number and see whether it works. I called 039. I called it up from, I think, 5 up to 10. No one picked. They don't pick. Now, when you read the reviews, they tell you these people don't pick. So I said, is this true? I did. They don't pick. So I can actually say that the service is terrible. It's terrible. So what are the challenges? Because since I did the tries, I did a try on Quick Center, I did a try on iCenter, and then ended with Loan Go. And when you apply Go to one, you receive SMS from then the rapid increment in loan amounts. Now, when you work with Airtel on Wewole, they will put you at 30,000 for 4 months. They will put you at the next 50,000 for a year. By the time you hit 100,000, you have qualified to hit 100,000. Now these ones, you borrow on a Monday and you pay back on a Tuesday. They will move you from 80,000 to 100. You borrow again on Thursday, they'll move you to 150. You borrow again 2 days later, they'll move you to 250. I mean, how are you telling the behavior of the borrower? It's very erratic, very, very erratic. So that's the rapid increment of loan amounts per borrowing. So I can't understand what it is as a banker. The normal money charges are borne by the borrower. So what are the recommendations, what are the commitments? We had a discussion with Umra, and he will be able to add on to that. They're committed to drafting guidelines that digital financial providers will actually follow. Currently, there are no guidelines. Digital finance is a new thing. And as a new thing, we learn, or the improvements come over time. So they're committed to doing this, and I think we'll have subsequent discussions regarding the same. There's need to train these people. I mean, it's bad. It's like loan sharks have moved from loan sharks to fintechs, and they just don't know what they're doing. It's just a madhouse. Then there's need for standardization of fintech offering. Everybody is doing the game. It's my money, and I can do what I feel like doing. Thank you very much. I met with Anne Gorgeles, and we had a very beautiful, after this experience, I met with her and I had a very beautiful, I was really biased, and I said, you know what is happening in here? And when Frida and I went and met Anne, we had a beautiful discussion, and they're doing something professional, and I think they were recommended by one of the consumers as one of them that are actually doing business loans. The majority of the rest of the fintechs are doing emergency loans. Because I mean, if they give you a loan in 8 days, and you're paying 20% interest in 8 days, how are you going to turn over the tomatoes and be able to pay back? You will default, definitely. So something is not happening very well. So my request that after this presentation, not everybody is doing a bad job. Can you allow Anna 5 minutes to at least say something? Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Good morning to you. This was a very provocative and insightful presentation. And from the part of Numida, I really want to say that we are not all of the fintechs are, we want to call them fintech sharks or something like this. But Numida is very much trying to be a leader, not only in gender inclusion, but also in best practices around customer experience and excellence. And so I'll tell you, just take a few minutes of your time to tell you about Numida. We're a digital unsecured lender. regulated by UMRA that provides working capital loans to micro and small businesses. We take longer than most digital lenders to provide that first loan because we will actually look at who is applying for the loan and whether they have a business. But we are really trying to meet customers where they are. So we have more than 15,000 active customers right now. And to apply, we only require a national ID, a mobile money number in their names, a smartphone to access our services, and having a business. Many customers have degrees of informality, have more non-traditional proof of ownership. We try to meet that and do responsible lending. 99% of our products are 30-day loans. Some clients have 3-month loans and 6-month loans, but the bulk of it is 30 days so that businesses can actually restock, can actually use that money to grow their business, to pay salaries, to pay rent, to pay URA taxes, etc. And so for us, about 50% of our customers are women, about 52% of our team of credit officers are women, and we have a very strong belief that actually building better products will not only benefit women, but it will benefit our full customer base and our company into the future. So it is part of very much our bet on how to succeed longer term. And where we are right now is really taking opportunities of economic crisis, of COVID, where people have fewer options, where some of our competitors stop lending entirely, to expand what we think is possible, to consider non-traditional businesses, to consider more informal businesses, and that is really what has led to having more female-owned businesses on our platform. Now today we have more than 15,000 active clients. We have an outstanding portfolio of more than 8.6 billion Ugandan shillings, turning over every month because they are short-term loans of 30 days. And what we are really looking for is partners that can help us access more micro and small businesses. No matter where they are in Uganda, no matter what they look like, we do try to serve them and look at every single one individually, and not only establish whether there is a business and they are the owner of the business, but how much can we responsibly lend to them and how much we can grow them over time. We are really looking for long-term relationships with our partners and long-term relationships with our clients so that 5 years from now we will still be here. We will be bigger than the SME division of many banks. That is very much our ambition, to scale across Uganda. So with our 15,000 active clients right now, we are looking to close the year at more than 23,000 active clients and keep scaling up, because micro and small business is the growing sector in Uganda. And it is a way for us to not only have impact, but grow sustainably and build a business alongside our customers. So if you have micro and small businesses that can benefit from this, please get in touch with us. We are looking for acquisition partnerships. If you are looking for bigger businesses to serve, we would also like to graduate our clients to other financial products of other financial institutions. So please reach out and let's talk. But really, if there is a takeaway for you to remember, please let it not be my name or how many customers we have, but is that Numida is here to scale up and is looking for opportunities to reach more clients and to really serve the micro and small business segment in Uganda, and to take the opportunities given to us by negative practices from our competitors to really show what success can look like and what responsible lending can look like. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Numida. And I think Anna hit the nail right on the head when she said responsible lending. That experience that WADA did give to us, I think they have particular phrases they put aside and prepare them for each and everyone who is not paying up. But that's very unfortunate, because as we continue to talk about financial inclusion, if this is the kind of response that we are getting, what happens to that woman who borrowed and probably things just failed and they're receiving those kind of messages? The next day she will be intimidated to go back and borrow, and yet she needs to continue with the businesses. And when Wada talked about the high interest rates, yes, this is where the real deal is. You'll find those market women borrow at more than 20% per day. Like, you borrow the money in the morning and you have to return it in the evening, right? So she borrows 100,000 to probably go and get a sack of potatoes and then sell them. And in the evening, that isn't just a span of hours. She has to pay more than 10, 20% as interest. That is what is happening to those women that we are looking at empowering. And that is why such a discussion gets us to try and find alternatives. How do we make it better for them? How do we not burden? How do we not get sharks when we're talking about financial inclusion? And the flexibility of payment, I find it interesting. Why? If I am ready to pay earlier, why shouldn't I pay at the end of the day? Why shouldn't there be flexibility for me who is paying much earlier, making it easier for you to get back the money and be able to lend it to the other customers? Interesting ones that are coming through, but also the other aspect is to particularly pay attention to the reasons as to why people borrow. And unfortunately, most of this is consumptive. I am borrowing to take a child to, and that means I'm getting indebted, and yet I have to pay back. If much of this is borrowing to get more capital and increase business and make more money, would have been a rather better option. So I think now we realize just how much of the financial independence that Dr. Taupista talked about is important. As I call on to the next speaker, while we continued with the discussion, we were joined by Mona Muguma Sebuliba, the CEO of ABI Finance. Mona, it's a pleasure having you. Please just raise your hand. Mona is seated at the back. Beautiful conversations that are going on that table. I've been eavesdropping from afar. Rebecca Kukundane, who is the gender specialist from Private Sector Foundation, Uganda. Thank you, Rebecca, for coming through. She's right at the back. Thank you for coming through, Rebecca, and for sparing your time. Goba Obama, who is from the Federation of Uganda. Thank you so much for coming through, Goba. Yes, she's right there behind. Thank you for joining us in the discussion. Let's get into a much broader discussion now on the bottlenecks that are affecting financial inclusion and women's participation. As we look at the post-COVID recovery period, what are some of these things? Some probably Wada has actually mentioned, some may not be mentioned, but we are here to talk about those, and this is the reason why this meeting is going on, to try and look at these bottlenecks and how exactly can we be able, because some of these things are not rocket science, the things that we can easily be able to deal with. Some of them are about information, but one other key that Wada talked about, I think that UMRA also needs to look at fairly, is misuse of information, personal information. Especially that NIN. It may look as simple, but someone can be able to use it in various ways. I at one time stopped using, what is it called? The banking system, where, I'm forgetting the name. But I stopped using that because they were asking for my NIN. So I asked this one lady one time, when this book gets filled up, after you've registered everyone, you ask each one of us to give you our NINs, right? What do you use this book for? Where do you put it? And she said, nothing. We dispose it off. Sometimes you will find people's NIN numbers wrapped in samosas on the roadside. And I'm asking myself, but this is vital information. This is a unique number. So I said, as is, if you can't take any other information, I'll not give you my NIN. Let me struggle and walk to the nearest bank and use an ATM or bear the brunt of standing in the queue. So protection of personal data is very, very important, and I think yes, we need to pay attention to that. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite Mr. Abel Mwesije from Kasita to come and take on this discussion on the bottlenecks affecting financial inclusion. Welcome, Abel. Thank you so much. Let's give him a round of applause.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Abel Mwesije, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer, Kasita, Uganda. I'm very much sure that we are all familiar with the word Kasita when it comes to business, especially here in Kampala. I'm privileged to take on this session. Great thanks to Gracia Machel Trust, New Voices, New Faces. Mama Teo, that one is my mom, she's my friend, she's my boss, she's my everything. Yes. So, I'm happy that when I'm standing here, I'm having a few members of Kasita, including my boss, Madame Donna there. Yes. So, when we talk of bottlenecks, I think Wada has mentioned it all. Now, mine is going to be practical. I am going to be the Musubuzi woman down there, not the figures here, because this is what is affecting us. Kasita, Uganda, I have a membership of around 3 million people. 3 million members, 65% are women. Yes. And 20% are youth. The men that are terrorizing these women are actually 15%. Yes. But why I'm always grateful to lead or take part in such is that even in my daily duties, there are the women that are supporting me. They are making me who I am. Because they are the other 65. Whatever has been presented, I actually concur and agree with it. But let me bring this scenario. When we talk of financial inclusion, it actually is very closely related to society empowerment. And society empowerment, me I'm looking at building confidence, financial confidence in women. That is how simple it is. But the first bottleneck, when we are talking about financial inclusion of women, which women are we talking of? In the first case, I'm looking at this discussion being in an isolated mode. Such discussions are always targeting the urban women. When we talk of the entire Uganda, the women that are in Uganda, I think not less than 30% are accessing or hearing what we are mentioning here. So the inclusion starts on the geographical, because we are centered in urban centers. When I talk of that, look at the proximity. If we call on Stanbic Bank today, EcoBank today, they will tell you, I have 50 branches in the Kampala metropolitan. And the other districts in the rural areas, they are even not there. Don't we have women there? So we have to start from that. Before we get to these apps and everything. The other thing is that we're having limited opportunities, especially for startup enterprises. Whenever we talk of financial inclusion, we are looking at this woman who is already in the market, who is already in the arcade. But how many women are willing to start up businesses but they cannot be helped? Aren't they women? And they are the majority. When you look at these products, they are targeting existing businesses. There are few players that are looking at these people that have not started. And they end up not actually getting into business. When let's look at the cultural concerns. There's one who talked about financial independence. The reason why I brought the geographical concern is that we still have cultures down there that still believe that in every family it is only a man that should be a breadwinner. And therefore it is only a man that should be allowed to, you know. So at the end of the day, the financial independence you're talking of cannot come when these cultures are still timid, and it cannot really come. These cultures are not witnessed here in the urban areas because you people are learned, you people are exposed. But how about the other hard to reach areas? So that's why I think most of these discussions are only going to be prospering around the Kampala, you know, this urban, and it is a small population. When I talk of the 3 million people, some people ask me, so Abel, do you want to tell me that we only have 3 million businesses in Uganda? I'm not out of that, because even when my membership is national, but there are many countries where I even don't have registered members, or even where I cannot reach. And if you women advocates keep on looking at, you know, these bright shining women that have seen the board, that have no touched man, then we are not going to achieve it all. Income levels. When you talk of inclusion, a woman, if you look at Madame Donna, who is operating in malls, she finds it very easy to embrace technology because of the kind of clients that she receives. Even if she's not to embrace, these clients will force her to embrace. But the income levels are bringing us challenges. The Numida will tell you that now she's targeting those who are in need of 100,000, 200,000. They are already putting. Now, this market person will actually know that I have a difference from someone who is operating from this arcade. But they are all women. And even we as service providers, we usually put that discrimination. No, my product is targeting the more women. My product is targeting the arcade women. They are the ones who have money. We are not up to empowering women. We are up to business. It's what we are looking for. When you go to where Madame Donna operates from, even if every woman there subscribed to Numida, you are very sure that in 1 year you will hit a 10 billion target that you're looking for with only 50 women. And that's what most of these people do. The other bottleneck is that most women have had bad experiences with these financial products. Very bad. Reason, you know, you are very soft. You women, you are very soft. Everyone would find it easy to approach you, to sell anything to you, but at the end of that day, with a bad experience, it becomes now hard for you to come back to me and you express yourself. So what do? You sit back with your depression, with your frustration, and you don't grow. Let me give you an example. Before we talk of the high interest rates, the taxations that are abnormal, an example is here in the city. The rent that these people are paying is abnormal. Many times I have witnessed landlords, they opt to get to women-led enterprises. They will say, I need my rent on the 4th. If you don't pay, I am locking the shop. They first prioritize women-led because they are the soft landing. I am telling you, because he knows if he comes to my shop as Abel, man to man, the exchanges that we are going to make will send him away and make him be patient with me. But you lady, you don't want to be embarrassed before people. That is the first thing. But as you hate being embarrassed, you're losing out. The first increment in any shop around Kampala begins with a woman-led shop, because they know for you have no option. If you're in shop number 216, you don't want Mama Teo to come and she finds, someone, she shifted. Miss Wamala shifted because she couldn't afford rent. You don't want to hear that. So what do? You now accept to be suppressed. So before, Now, if you're really suppressed to that extent, so how best are you going to adapt any financial inclusion that they bring you? When your mindset is really, perturbed, it cannot work. The other, I am trying to be brief because they have really explained. But me, I'm trying to bring the real downtown bottlenecks that we are witnessing. We have a slow adaptation to technology. Most of these apps, beautiful ladies, they have very expensive phones, like Mama Teo mentioned. But what do they do with them? Because they are beautiful, they use them for TikToking. Like seriously, they use them for WhatsApping. Now, these fintech developers, they have reached an extent of, these pop-up adverts. But we even cannot explore to know what they are about. So at the end of the day, we don't use the resources that we do have. And that is why there are many good apps that are there, many products that are there. The convenience of, transacting from your own shop. You apply for a loan, you open a bank account, you transfer money. But because we do not want to adapt to it, many women go on a Tuesday, go to any Pride Microfinance Bank branch, Bananga, you will find thousands of women lined up, depositing 5,000, 10,000, something that she would have done on phone. And that is why the borders that are targeting, that are lobbying you guys, they're taking that advantage. When you look at the current regulations and policies, they're really affecting our businesses. There is no way you're going to have a fine-tuned mind when your business is not doing well. Look at the cost of doing business in Uganda. Look at, those who have been able to do the importation of various things, whether produced here or not, that is another story. But right now, taxes are becoming too much. They can no longer afford. The financing is very costly. They cannot afford. So in many ways, even if you now come and educate these women, when they get back to business, they cannot really make anything. Yes, URA is there, and the good thing, she's a lady, and what I'm speaking is on record. The other day I had the case of women, a group of women who are trading from Kenya, but by bus. So they came crying, they're like, Abel, we cannot afford these lorries. We afford these migugus. And now URA is saying, stop bringing your migugus in buses because you're avoiding taxes. And now these ladies are saying, we cannot afford. If we would afford, we would be going to China and bringing in containers. But we opt. So, and these people, why they had to come to Kasita? They cannot every go to URA and express themselves. So even her, she may not be knowing all this until when Kasita comes. The problem is when I come up, now she will think, now Kasita katibagenda kurwana, they are going to riot there. No, it is not that. We are representing. We are representing. And I think the other biggest bottleneck that we have is the level of education background, which has created a lot of inferiority complex within us. I'm very sure that Mama Teo would be glad to take up Primrose Hall for such a wonderful session for women. Primrose Hall, it hosts up to 1,000 people there. But if she did that, she would still get this number of women to come for such free education. There are those who feel coming to Imperial Royal to be empowered, you have to be of a certain class, inferiority complex. That's what her mind tells her. Even when Gracia Machel puts in money, even when New Faces does everything. If I ask if any of you is trading from Chikubo, I bet from Chikubo and you're seated here, they don't have that time. If there is anyone from Nakasero Market to the Safi, Madame Donna, they don't have that time. But today, the people we are talking about, Mildred. And they're the people we are talking about. And they are the majority. I mean, she's from Bank of Uganda. She would be glad to interact with, but where can she find them? I even can bet that she may not be knowing downtown Usafi there. Because now that is our perception. That is the perception that we have. She's from Bank of Uganda. We hardly believe that someone from Bank of Uganda can go to Nakasero down there. At a time like this, it rained last night. So the mud that is there, she cannot. That is our mindset. And it is the same mindset why we feel the downtown woman cannot sit on the same table. But we are losing out. We are losing out. I do not know how much time I have, Mildred, but in the recommendations that I had, I believe if we decentralized some of these services, I believe if we established the digital resource centers, specifically for women, I know there are partners out there who are willing to fund, so that we can take such education, such literacy, at their convenience, down there where they are. Because when you call them this side, they are not going to come, but they are the ones we are targeting. If I purpose to go to my members down there, I can never put on a tie, because they will know I am not part of them. Okay? So it is a recommendation that I would want to bring to you. Mama Teo, the other recommendation would be to establish more partnerships. And these partnerships can start from the local level. Have a partnership, and that's the model that I use. Have a partnership with the women leadership in these markets. These women leaders, if empowered, they are very willing and flexible to go and empower their fellow women because they understand them. If we don't do that, we are going to continue having this Anowino operating woman comes here, looks at that breakfast. You're calling it breakfast. It is costing 100,000, which would take her family for a full week, and you're bringing, she eats and then goes back, and, without anything. She cannot come here. Let's decentralize. We find them where they are. We train them. This is what they need, but the approaches we are using here, I mention it again, they are really not going to yield a lot. And those are the people we are looking for. Mildred, I would like to end here. But as a typical Kasita and typical trader, I am into empowering women. As a matter of fact, my own wife operates from Ovino Mall. And I was strategic. How do I lead business people? And my wife is, for example, a corporate, or is not, knows nothing about business. And she has come to appreciate. She has helped me. I am not intimidated that because she's financially, well, then she's not going to give me respect. No, that is stupidity. It doesn't work that way. When I see Madame Robina here, she's my president. We are organizing a Trans-Africa Investment Summit in October, and she's a woman that is doing global things. We all can do that. We men that don't know the value that we hold, we are the ones that do fear you to overtake our responsibilities. But you cannot challenge me if I know who I am. I beg to stop there, Mildred.
If each and every time we can have more adults and more people, more men thinking like he is, this world is going to be a better place. And the issue of uplifting the woman, the issue of financial inclusion for women will even become a much better, easier way for dealing. I pick, if you can't forget anything else, I pick one particular thing from what Abel has said, is that we need to reach out. We need to go to these people. Truthfully, the perception is different. You understand? They think that they are somewhere far and we are also apart. There is that huge gap. So there needs to be someone to break that ceiling and break that gap so we can be able to sit together and talk about them. But while we continued, Donna, thank you so much for joining us from UNCC, Uganda National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, as well as the proprietor Sparkles Salon. Yeah, beautiful. I've done my hair quite a lot from Sparkles. Beautiful service there and empowering women. I don't know how many women you employ. She will be telling us the percentage of the ladies right there. Thank you so much. But Clemencio Businje from the Uganda Revenue Authority as well. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sparing your time. For coming, and I want to also applaud URA for the sensitization campaigns you've continuously come up with. I think that it is doing much better, because back in the day we knew URA as people who only come when you've made your small profit, then they come for, for taxes, and they come with seals if you're not paying up. A bit of the response what I was getting from the digital, money lenders, that is what we used to get from URA. But you've trained your people, they're not as rude as they used to be. Though a little bit more work needs to be done, but much better that we have gotten. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get to hear from Mrs. Rosette Bamwine. And I want us to just go through these speeches a little bit quicker so that we get to have a bit of time to talk, and get the response from the people as we get to conclude. But Madame Rosette from Bank of Uganda will be looking at the increasing access to finance for women-owned enterprises, and particularly a case of the path or section where I am, that is the agricultural credit facility. This is a place where financial institutions never used to look, with all the risks involved. I mean, you plant 10 acres and you can't even be able to get the capital because there was bad weather conditions at that. So let's give a round of applause to Mrs. Rosette Bamwine to speak to us.
They said we look alike, do we? Do we look alike? We have to do a little bit of DNA. Yeah. I'm just going to request for one thing. I'll keep you company here. Sorry for the interruption. Yeah. We have somebody who heads the gender department at KCCA, and he had told me earlier he has 2 hours, but he just wanted to make a comment. Do you people authorize that? Okay, thank you. KCCA, John Bosco. No, stand here. I'll keep her company, big officers.
Thank you so much, Theo. My name is John Bosco Bashinyora. I work with the KCCA. I'm glad to be here. As I was seated here, I remembered that at some point I think I worked with you, Theo. Yes, somewhere. I think so. I should be old enough, really. I've been around for quite some time. I started my career in a financial institution, and later I left the financial institution and joined NGOs and then government. In the audience, I had someone called Mona. At some point, I think I used to communicate with Mona on phone. Probably she doesn't know me. I had also not met her physically, but I'm sure she should be the one. If at one point you worked with the African Alliance, something like that. Yes. So that was quite some time back. Now, back to the issues that have been presented by the 2 presenters, I wanted to make a few comments. You have heard that at some point I was in the formal sector. Probably working with the ladies and the gents that are here. Later, I left that field and went into government, and now I started working with the local person. I work with the local women. I have been in the field, in the city here, for the last 10 years, working with the local people. Now, I want us to take note of the following, that in Uganda, our economy is dominated by the informal sector. It's highly dominated by the informal sector. Now, from that background, this is something that we need to think about. Based on the research that was conducted, I realized that the respondents were purposefully selected. And I guess this did not include the women from the informal sector. The women from the markets that we have around, they were not interviewed. And I think for you to enrich our research findings, we need to go back and look at that so that we're able to do a comparison. Two, on the research, I wanted to make also comments on the research as well. Two, there is where she mentioned that 41 to 50 years are the ones that usually access the digital financial products. That is a very critical finding which we need to dig deeper. Probably it relates to the informal sector. Women that dominate that sector, that do not have the requirements probably to access these digital financial products. It would be important for us to explore that further. Now, what do we do as KCCA in as far as empowering the women? For us as KCCA, we don't look at the woman that is seated in this room. We are looking at the women at the grassroots level. Women that are in the informal sector, women that face hardships to access the finances that are in the banks, all right? As you saw from what she was presenting, she indicated that the interest rates are very, very high, higher than actually what the banks charge, all right? And if we are running businesses that are not going to empower the woman in the informal sector, that are not going to solve the problems within the community, those businesses may not be sustainable in the long run. We should be able to run businesses, provide financial solutions that are able to meet the needs of the woman that is at the lower level. That we're able to lift this woman, take this woman to another level. Now, in terms of responses to COVID-19 effects, of course, the number of programs that we implement as government, as KCCA, ranging from community-driven development funds, which we still run as the city. As I speak, still we have a budget this financial year of 1.3 billion, and these finances go to the women, to the groups of women that are able to do some projects for purposes of empowering them economically. Of course, we have the Chanja Agricultural Resource Center for women that are interested in urban farming, where we demonstrate technologies that the urban women can use while doing farming within the city center without necessarily becoming a nuisance to their neighbors. It is something that probably the women organizations that are here that can take advantage of. You come visit our center so that you are able to learn from the center what happens as far as urban farming is concerned. We do demonstrate fish farming technologies there, piggery farming, growing crops using greenhouses. It is a number of initiatives at the center. So it is something that I want to interest you to take on so that we are able to work together. Now, in terms of commitments, we commit to work with you, but specifically in empowering the women in the markets, the women in the informal sector, so that they are able to move to a level where these other women that we see in this room are. That is very critical for this country. You are a person here. Her targets will increase if these women are able to get to another level. If they are able to have their businesses registered and then they start paying taxes, our country will be taken to another level. I usually get a lot of requests from people like you, especially like for her who made a request that they would want to really expand their products to a number of women within this country, in as far as access to finances are concerned. But sometimes whenever these requests come through, I start thinking through, are these products going to empower these women? We have a lot of information. We work with so many groups in our different products that we actually offer to the public, to the communities. We talked about CDD, we talked about Uganda Women Entrepreneurship Program, which is a government of Uganda program. We have a lot of information with us. The number of women that we work with that are in the informal sector, a number of them. However, whenever such requests come through, we also would love to understand deeply on how this product is going to affect this woman that you are trying to bring on board. Because we would not want to leave the woman in a worse of position that you actually found them in. So, as we look out for partnerships, yes, we have the information. We are actually gatekeepers. There are a number of people that we can, open doors for you to have access to them. The executive director of CASITA talked about the women in the markets. The markets are under my docket. I manage all the markets in this city, given the mandate that I have at the moment. So let's see how we can be able to take this forward. Theo, probably maybe at some point, as we earlier discussed, we can meet and see how we can be able to have these linkages and be able to take it forward. Lastly, sometimes I talk a lot. Lastly, as KCCA, we run a product, a financial product, a loan with the bank, Centenary Bank. Yes. We run a product with Centenary Bank called KCCA Center Youth Loan. KCCA Center Youth Loan. We have 3.3 billion in Centenary Bank that is lent out to the young people who are doing businesses that are registered. That's where most of probably your daughters and some of you are still within the youth age, between 18 and 30, can actually benefit. Our ladies, our young women can be able to benefit from this. Instead of going to the money sharks to be exploited, they can take advantage of this. Sometimes we don't have this information. Yeah? It's at 10% per annum. As KCCA, we don't benefit from that percentage, that interest. It just caters for the administrative costs which the bank meets as they administer this loan. So this loan is available. Young people can take advantage of that. It's a matter of going into our 5 divisions of Kampala and you get this information, you get a recommendation, and then you take it to the bank, Centenary Bank, and you have the loan and you are able to run your business. So it is something that you can take advantage of. But also there is another loan. That one targets people who are running businesses in Kampala. But there is also another loan which government of Uganda runs with the Centenary Bank. Because for KCCA Center Youth Loan, we started it in 2013. Later in 2018, the Minister of Gender, realizing that the KCCA Center Youth Loan was doing well and it was empowering so many younger people, it also put funds in the Centenary Bank to the tune of around 30 billion. It's a national youth fund. It also runs in Centenary Bank. And they're also lending it to the young people at the same terms, same interest. So this is something which also the young women can also take advantage of so that they are able to invest in businesses. We want to see them at another level. Theo, let me stop here. We shall add on at some other time.
in uplifting the standard of living of the woman. You've heard my names. My name is Rosette Bamwine, representing the bigger team of the Agricultural Credit Facility at Bank of Uganda. I hope you are going to advance the presentation. So, what is it that we have for you? I've liked whatever presentation I've listened to. The Kasita, thank you so much. All the previous ones, the researcher, Makelele, it was very, very interesting. And I think billion Uganda shillings. You'll also see what it involves under the grain trade. And also, most of the banks, when they are lending out to people, they give you a loan. When you are in need, you don't mind, you sign. Whether it's 1 year, 2 years, you are rushing to sign for the loan. And then you forget what you want to do, will you have harvested to pay back this loan? Or they will soon foreclose on the collateral that you have given in. Under this scheme, we give up to 8 years. And we have a grace period of 3 years. And the minimum loan period is 6 months. The interest rate is a maximum of 12% per annum. 12% per annum, meaning 1% per month. And the facility fees, the fees that you're charged is 0.5%. The interest rate you have heard, but to Bank of Uganda, we shall talk about this, but it's 0 once it's a partnership. So whatever loan that is borrowed, 50% comes from the government at 0 to the bank. Then the bank adds also 50% to be able to lend to you at 12%. 10 million will come from the government of Uganda. The bank will put on the 30 million. They give it to you for the agricultural purposes. And then the 70 million will be at 0 interest to the bank, so as to motivate them to lend to the agriculture sector, to lend to the women, to lend to anyone that really wishes to develop the agriculture sector. And that's why there is 50-70%. But for the grain trade, we share halfway, 50-50. Next. So the funds, the sources of funds, the funds are contributed by both the government of Uganda, this one I've also mentioned. You can actually jump that slide. Go ahead. Uganda Development Bank also puts 50%. You may ask, I want to preempt, you may want to know why is it that when your application goes through a credit institution or MDI, the government gives more money? The reason is, it's a risk sharing. Whatever you are borrowing, the government contributes, the bank contributes, your bank. But then when we started the scheme in 2009, it has been in operation all these years, the MDIs, the credit institutions were actually not participating. And when we inquired, we were informed that they didn't have the liquidity as a matching basis. For example, if you borrow 1 billion, the credit institutions did not have that cash of 500 million to give it to you as in the risk-sharing bit. And that's why the government decided to increase more, especially knowing that most of our SMEs go through these credit institutions and MDIs. Next. So how can women benefit under this scheme? What can they get under this scheme? One, acquisition of machinery and equipment. We are interested in mechanization. We are interested in modernization. And actually the government encourages mechanization of the agriculture sector. Many times you've heard our leaders, the president and the like, talking about mechanization of the sector. We want people to use tractors, to move away from rudimentary means of farming to modern farming. Use of tractors, use of the machinery and equipment is what we are encouraging. And also opening land and any other farm. Those who want this, I actually have enough brochures for all of you. So at the end of the presentation, I'll give you brochures to read for yourselves. Madam Teo, you're going to have this, don't worry. So we are interested in mechanization. Buy a tractor. And this tractor, you can get it, you dig, you use it, you hire it out to their neighbors, you hire it out to fellow women, and it can also be used as collateral. See the advantage? It is collateral, you have gotten it, you are using it to dig, and also to grow extensively. We are also, one of the objectives you've had is commercializing agriculture. We are interested in people going commercial. Take agriculture as also a commercial project. Don't use it only for home consumption. Whatever you plant, whatever you engage in, do it for home, for food security, but as well as for sale. Commercializing agriculture is one of the key objectives of this scheme. So the women can use it for, maybe get for opening land, any farm-related activity, any construction, maybe you want poultry houses, any other houses for farming, the paddocking, the water sources, you want seeds and seedlings, agriculture inputs, pesticides and fertilizers, you want irrigation facilities, you are interested in water dam, those areas that have no water, so that you can irrigate during the dry season. You are interested in post-harvest handling, the silos, the warehousing, the storage facilities, the cold storage chain, the trucks, the cold trucks, the greenhouses, packaging materials, the branding, name it, this scheme can finance it. Biological assets, we have what we call biological assets. These are like seedlings, for example. If you are buying banana suckers, if you are buying fruit seedlings, madam, I know you are in that business. You are buying banana suckers, but banana seedlings, fruit seedlings, or chicks for rearing, stocking, anything the young of something where you can get more, we give only 80 million. And also agro-processing facilities, machinery and equipment. We are interested, we are no longer, the government is no longer interested in farmers just exporting raw things. We want to process, we want to pack. So all the packaging materials you can borrow under this scheme and do that. So the next, what we don't finance, go the next. Those are the farms we have financed. Next. So we have other activities that are not financed. They are the only ones. The rest, don't ask. Just go to your bank and ask for the ACF loan. Purchase of land, we are not financing this. Planting of trees, we don't finance, the ACF doesn't finance planting of trees. The reason being, the trees take so long, more than the 8 years we give as the loan period. Financing an existing loan, if you have a bad loan, sorry, we cannot give you to refinance another loan that is bad. We don't finance traders apart from the grain traders. If you are in trading, I have another scheme that I'm going to give you, but this one we are interested in agricultural value chain, but not buy and sell. Okay, we want you to produce and sell your own. Okay, and then also the freight charges, like if you want, maybe you are asking us, you want to transport something abroad and you want freight charges. Apart from those, anything else that you wish to do as ladies, as women, as your relatives, women out there, anything, they can go to their bank and ask. All the banks, you see them, including the Centenary they were talking about, all the banks, you see the list is too long here. When I give you this, you see all the banks are eligible to participate. They are partners in this scheme. So, have the women benefited so far? Next slide. Yeah, this one. Several developments aimed at expanding financial inclusion by unlocking access to finance under the agricultural credit facility includes the following. Financing primary production and processing by removing the cap on financing working capital. We have tried, maybe this slide should come after you've seen the performance. We have tried to bring the women on board. The ACF has revised this scheme 5 times now. And the reason is to bring everyone on board, especially the small-scale farmers, the small-scale agro-processors, the women and the like. And because of that, the caps, some of the money, some of the rules have been reduced to accommodate more women. We have introduced what we call block allocation, where farmers, especially women, are allowed to access loans up to 20 million Uganda shillings with no tangible collateral. You can't clap for this? So, these women can go out there under the agricultural credit facility to their banks. They borrow the money up to 20 million without collateral. Or you can use what we call chattel mortgage. Chattel mortgage is when you can even put your chairs, you can even put your dress, you can even put anything apart from the land title that women do not possess. Apart from the car logbooks, you can use alternatives. We also what we call character-based loans. Character-based loans is when you borrow and you pay so well. You keep borrowing and paying well, you are transparent, you are trustworthy, you can get this 20 million without any collateral. And also we have cash flow-based financing. Cash flow-based financing, I believe you've been studying this, I believe you've heard about this. This comes out especially from the record keeping. Whatever you sell, write. Whatever you buy, keep your records. You can use these records actually to get a loan. Just take your book. Say, I earn so much in a month. I spend so much. I get a profit of so much, a margin. And also you have to have a bank account, of course. And we want to see how you are banking. It's not about the balances you have on your bank account, but how you bank. Even if you have 0, 10,000, provided we see that you put money, get it out, that shows these are the cash flows. How is cash coming in? How is cash going out? It can also be used as security for the women. We also have off-take arrangements. Off-take arrangements, I'll give you an example. These big sugar companies, the sugar companies, we give them billions of money so that they can lend or they can help the women that they are using, they can help the youth and any other person who may not have collateral through providing materials. They'll give you the seeds themselves, they give you the tractor to dig, they'll give you whatever you need, watering and all that, but when you harvest, that is when you pay them back. That's why these big sugar companies are very good at off-take arrangements. The tea companies and the agricultural credit facility has financed all these. And also it has increased the food security to the whole nation, of course. Once you get the loans, once you mechanize, you commercialize agriculture, then you're also ensured of food security. So what are the application requirements under this scheme? One, you need to be bankable. You have to have a bank account in a bank. As Bank of Uganda is a central bank, you are not supposed to go there as an individual. That's why you have to go through the banks. You go through your bank, and besides, the scheme is a partnership. So the banks and the government of Uganda partnered together to put these funds to support agriculture, to support commercialization, modernization, mechanization of the agriculture sector. You have a bankable proposal where applicable, if you are borrowing more money, if you are borrowing little money, not so much, the bank may not ask you for a proposal, but you should also know at least how to write a proposal. I believe, ladies, Madam Teo and the team, I challenge you, I believe you teach your ladies how to write a proposal. CRB report, you know CRB, Credit Reference Bureau, that helps us track those with loans. Security, unless you are borrowing 20 million and below under the block allocation arrangement, the collateral, spousal consent. By the way, we are interested in spousal consent. The business, for those that have spouses, for those that are married, a man will not go and borrow when the wife is not aware. We want to see the wife's side, and vice versa, okay? But those that are single, definitely, you borrow in your capacity as single. And then from the records and the like. So how have we performed? I have the performance of June, but I want to share with you the March one. The next. So we have so far received about 2,488 loan applications, valued at 1.04 trillion Uganda shillings. We have financed projects worth 2.063 billion. Sorry, 2,063 projects valued at 669.88 billion. And of this, 74% were small and medium enterprises, under which most youth and women fall. So the 74% has gone to the youth and women. Okay? Next is the effects of COVID-19. Of course, we were affected like many others. The businesses were affected, the lockdown, and it was because of COVID-19 that I'll also talk of the next scheme that we have. Next. So what achievements? What have we achieved? What has the government of Uganda achieved? The women and all of us through this scheme, the Agricultural Credit Facility. One, enhancing farmers and agro-processors access to affordable credit facilities, the micro loans of 20 million and below through alternative collateral, promoting commercialization, mechanization, modernization of the agriculture sector. We cannot give examples, but there are many. Most of the big farms you're seeing, the irrigation, the use of the improved mechanization, most of them are the funds under the Agricultural Credit Facility. Increasing value to the agricultural projects, resulting into import substitution of produce that attract better prices. Our projects have increased the value through the better seeds, through the better methods of farming, because the farmers have access and financial literacy on how to go on with their agricultural projects. It has another benefit is boosting export promotion of Ugandan-made products, especially the dairy, the tea, the grain sector, among others. So many people now are exporting. Our products are abroad and they are quality products because the farmers have the funds to package and buy better breeds. Increased lending to the agriculture sector. Like we talked from the beginning, most banks were not willing to lend to the agriculture sector, but as we talk, most of the banks are now very interested. If they even tell you, don't use the ACF, we can also give you at a better rate. But this is the credit to the ACF because it helped them to venture into agricultural lending. And actually knowing that most of it is perceived risk, not the real risk that they are afraid about. Increasing employment levels. We are interested in this employment because it concerns the educated, the not educated, because anyone can work on a farm, and we are very happy to have so many graduates. We are very happy to have so many unskilled, so much of unskilled labor, many people working on these farms that are commercial farms. So hence increasing the employment levels. It has prompted development partners to initiate guarantee packages and agriculture insurance to support financial institutions to lend high-risk areas in the agriculture ecosystem. Because of the ACF, we've had a number of development partners actually come on board to support the farmers and the women to engage in agriculture, well knowing the banks now have the funds and the government is supporting agricultural development, agricultural mechanization and commercialization. We have also maintained the prominence, distribution of public-private partnership. The banks, the fact that the government is shouldering part of the risk, the banks are now very, very interested under the public-private partnership arrangement. So the challenges, not so much for today, because I have another scheme to present. But of course, some of the challenges, you've had them, the weather, the infrastructure, the COVID-19, some banks are still not so willing. Then the post-harvest handling equipment, like silos and warehouses. You've recently heard of our maize getting toxin and not getting market abroad because of the poor storage facilities. And these storage facilities, the silos, the warehouses, all these can be financed under the agricultural credit facility. The poor record keeping is also a handicap to the banks. And of course, holistic approach, whereby commercialization and modernization of agriculture requires much more than access to finance. So we need favorable policies, especially for agriculture financing. And next, please. Okay, possible solutions, yes. We have to get solutions together. One, we strengthen cooperatives and other institutions to support SMEs. Institutions like these ones, to support anyone interested in farming, anyone interested in agro business. Because agro-industrialization, we want more silos. We want people to build warehouses. Now the funds are there. You can use that warehouse as collateral. And then promoting financial literacy, consumer protection, and agriculture business education. Bank of Uganda is already doing the financial literacy bit. And you people here, you are also doing financial literacy. And we are very grateful to this Grace Marshall Trust Women's Leadership for encouraging the women and other women organizations. Having different loan products, we want the banks to have different products for different, when people go to borrow, they shouldn't give you a loan that should be for maybe someone who has a lot of money. Encouraging public-private partnership, and then agriculture insurance, next slide. The government of Uganda put actual agriculture insurance that is in place. There was a pilot phase whereby the government would pay a bit of the premium for certain crops. So we try to encourage agriculture insurance to help solve the risk or measure the risks so that they are not so high and people end up losing. And of course, a holistic approach that I had talked about before. So that is the agricultural credit facility. Now I want to rush and tell you about small business before Kasita leaves me. We have something else. Can you go? Yeah, Small Business Recovery Fund. Small Business Recovery Fund concerns, I believe, most of you that have small businesses. In the same vein, it was initiated by the government of Uganda, still in partnership with the financial institutions operating in Uganda. And the aim was, in the same effort of revitalizing the economy, the government of Uganda launched a Small Business Recovery Fund in November 2021 to provide funding to small businesses that have suffered financial distress arising from the effects of COVID-19 pandemic and can show potential for recovery if provided with financial support. I believe you have businesses or relatives or friends with businesses that suffered due to COVID-19 lockdown, due to COVID-19, the effects of COVID-19. But such businesses should be able to show potential for recovery in case one gives them money. This one is not for agriculture. It's for any other business. Agriculture, you go to the Agricultural Credit Facility, and this one is Small Business Recovery Fund. And what is eligible under SBLAF, or Small Business Recovery Fund is short for SBLAF, will be shortened as SBLAF. It can be operated by individuals, by groups, by partnerships and companies, employing between 5 to 49 people, and with an annual turnover of 10 million to 100 million. That is, you must be having a business. Maybe it can be chapati business. It can be a salon business. It can be a small retail shop. It can be those ladies that are in the marketplace whose businesses were affected by COVID-19, but can show potential to recover. The number of people you must be employing about 5, because if we say any person, then it will be too much. At least have a business where you are employing 5 people. Have a business whereby by the end of the year, you are employing 549 people, remember? And by the end of the year, you have a turnover, or what you get, not necessarily a profit, but the turnover, the cash flows, the money you get from your business should be about 10 million and 100 million, up to 100 million. So the small-scale trader who at the end of the year, his total income is 10 million, and that other trader who at the end of the year, the income is 100 million, can all benefit. How much can you get? Next slide. The capital expenditure, maximum loan amount up to 100 million. Maximum period, this one is 4 years. Remember the ACF was 8 years with a grace period of 3 years. Grain trade is 2 years with a grace period of no grace period, by the way. And I want to talk about a little on the grain trade and how the women can benefit after this. Then this one has a grace period of only 1 year, and the minimum loan period 6 months. Interest rate you've had is 10% and below. Maximum is 10%. And then the fees. When I say facility fees, some of us, when we go to borrow money, the papers where we sign, they are so tiny. I don't know whether you've ever noted that. They're so tiny that some people, when they need money, they just sign. They don't even have to say, what are they writing? What are they deducting? Some of them will say, on disbursement, when we are giving you this money, we are going to deduct 10%. You sign and you don't know what 10% will amount to. So under the Agricultural Credit Facility, under that Small Business Recovery Fund, we are very, very careful that they must not exceed 0.5% of the loan you are borrowing. So always try to read. If you can't read, ask the bank people, the officials before you, what is this? I can't read these words. Can you translate for me? Can you give me the salient features of these small words for which I'm signing, and yet I don't know what they are talking about? And then the government of Uganda contribution is also 50%. This time there is no 70-30, but 50%. The bank will contribute 50%, and the government of Uganda will contribute 50%. Next slide. The SBLF, or Small Business Recovery Fund, does not finance agribusinesses or agriculture activities that are eligible under Agricultural Credit Facility. All those projects that we can do under Agricultural Credit Facility are not financed here. How can women access the ACF and SBLF? We had talked about this before. But then the client will apply through a financial institution or the bank of your choice. The bank will look through your application. It will approve. The bank will then disburse the money and come for Bank of Uganda for the 50%, to come to Bank of Uganda for the 50% Government of Uganda contribution. So they first give you 100%. They just come for a refund of 50%. The reason being, this is just controls. We want the bank to give you 100% and then come for the 50%. Otherwise, if one gives the government contribution, the bank may not give their contribution, yet they charge interest on it. Please note, the government does not charge interest on the portion of the 50% to motivate these banks to lend at 10%. Otherwise, the cost, we have what we call the cost of funds. The banks would not really benefit anything if they were to lend at 10% and then the cost, the fees charged, the cost of funds and the like. The 50%, 70% contribution is given to PFI at 0 interest to cover the cost of funds. That is for ACF. SBLF, I've said it is 50-50. So the next one, just like a small tip for women, ensure good record keeping for your business success, especially for ease of borrowing, as cash flows can act as collateral. You get it? You just take your inflows, your outflows, and then it can act as collateral, especially under the SEF, Agricultural Credit Facility. Every loan comes with a cost. Shop around for the best offer. Don't just go anywhere. Shop around for those that have best offer. Make the money you borrow very productive and avoid diversion. Don't dig a hole to fill up another hole. Don't borrow to fill another big hole. Avoid borrowing to pay other debts. Get professional advice on large investments and learn about agribusiness insurance. Have a SMART goal: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Before I conclude, I just want to tell you just 1 minute on the grain facility. The grain facility under the Agricultural Credit Facility, you are going to read it in here, but it talks about women can engage in it. This one is very, very good, good business for the women. In that one, during the harvest time, any grain, mention it. Some have maize as grain, the beans, the peas, the simsimu, the cowpeas, anything graded under grain is eligible. And you just go during the harvest time, you go to the bank, they give you the money, you go and buy this grain. And keep, so many people have warehouses. So many warehouses have been financed under the Agricultural Credit Facility. And almost every area we have a modern warehouse. You can pay them to store, or you can also borrow to construct your own. And then when it is time, the prices are high, you can sell. This one, the loan period is 2 years only, because we assume you are borrowing when you know the grain is already there. So the ladies can benefit under this. You also buy and trade in this on the grain facility. Interest rate is 15%, and any bank can give it to you. And the grain can also act as collateral, depending on where you keep it. If the warehouse receipt system takes off, it will also be very beneficial. In conclusion, therefore, you can put that concluding slide. It is worth noting that the government of Uganda cannot manage to solve the challenges of agricultural finance in isolation. And in order to achieve the export agenda, while creating jobs at different stages along the value chain, there is need to develop detailed value chains that integrate job creation analysis at different stages with clear workforce development plans. It requires a combined effort of the farmers, the private sector, the women, the youth, the development partners, and agribusiness advocates to all combine efforts so as to succeed. Thank you very much. I request some people to pick the procures. We have enough for everyone.
All right, we have enough procures. A bigger round of applause for Mrs. Rosette Bamwine for that elaborate, and like she concluded, this is not a thing that can only be done by the government. You know that statement of government yetuyambe that people always throw out. Yes, but it cannot be able to help each and everyone. I think you've picked up something, especially, I can attest to grain trade and how important and how profitable it can be, because I am into milling. And I know that today you might buy a kilogram of grain or maize grain at 1,400, so to say, and tomorrow it will be at 1,600. Or in a difference of about 3 hours, you go to another buyer and it has changed by about 150 shillings. So, but it also needs a little bit of thinking out loud, because today it might be at 1,400, then you have a bumper harvest, and then the price goes down. So you need to do a little bit of research in that. Madam Bamwine, I had a lot of murmurs when you talked about spousal consent. Why? I am wondering why that came through. So that's a discussion for another day. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get to our next speaker. Like Mrs. Bamwine did say, it is government cannot do it alone. That means there are other financial institutions that come through. And that is why she kept saying government provides either 70%, the others provide 30 or 50, a 50-50% share. Let's get to listen from Finance Trust Bank on the policies that they've put in place for mainstreaming gender in financial inclusion and the economic intervention. Okay, Finance Trust Bank is actually not here, but that would have been a very beautiful one to pay attention to. But there is also the issue of developing organizational culture and facilitating equality. In the organizational culture is where what Mrs. Bamwini talked about, aspects of bookkeeping. By the way, this is the elephant in the room, eh? Bookkeeping for many businesses, micro, medium, and small enterprises have an issue with bookkeeping, and yet, like she said, that can be one of the issues, or that can be one of the things that you will use to be able to get a loan. You use that as collateral. I mean, you are able to record. Even some of us corporates don't know how to bookkeep, because you put fuel to go to your farm and you forget that that is an expense. You don't even put it as an expense on part of the farm. And at the end of the day, when you get your money, you don't even remember how much you spent to be able to go there. I have a friend who says, even when I buy a bottle of soda, when I'm going to that is an expense, because I bought it going to the farm at the end of the day. So ladies and gentlemen, looking at and see from the Federation of Uganda Employers, is Boma here with us? Oh yeah, she's right here. Thank you so much. Let's give her a round of applause as she comes to speak to us about how we can be better organized, how we put businesses together. I really loved from the Bank of Uganda. I hope we have picked. We will all come running for money. I hope there will be enough. Ministry of Finance will not be saying inadequate funds. That is one thing that always comes through every other time. Earlier on, for the farmers or for those in agriculture, earlier on we had the gentleman in terms of, with regard to gender from KCCA. He talked about the Chanja farm. I visited it. And one thing I've learned for those who are dealing in agriculture, that is as I wait for Golda to come and speak to us, is that you need to do, I mean, you need to visit other people and see, in whichever business that you're doing, by the way, it is okay for you to go and visit another person and find out what are they doing. There is something you will be able to learn, by the way, as opposed to staying in your small cocoon and getting to know what you have, and that is all that you know. Learning, unlearning, and relearning in business is a key aspect, because there is always new technology, there are always new people to meet, and there is always something new to be able to learn as you carry on with your business. So, and let's get to invite Madame Golda to come and speak to us as we get to closer to the close. And then we will have Uganda Revenue Authority who will be coming to us. I've known them now to start to become business enablers. Some of us have known them to be the money takers, not the money makers. But that is changing. How are they enabling businesses? What is in place from the Uganda Revenue Authority perspective with regard to recovery of these businesses is what we'll be looking at. So let's give a round of applause for Golda. She's ready to come and speak to us.
Minute to the afternoon, so I'm wondering whether to say good morning or good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, please. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, all protocol observed. My name is Golda Oboma. They called me Obona. No, I'm Golda Oboma, though everybody calls me Goldie. Okay. As I wait for my presentation, our dear leader here and the rest of you, that was very, very engaging, and I was seated behind there and learned quite a lot. And for me, honestly, it's a privilege to stand before all of you. I'm very humbled to stand before you, very honorable people in your distinguished, places. So as the Federation of Uganda Employers, we are partnering, yes, with you in this, and I must start by re-emphasizing our commitment, because when you talk about women, when you talk about equality, when you talk about gender, when you talk about equity, that is very pertinent to us. And the Federation of Uganda Employers, if I may quickly, okay. Mine is also frozen, so I'm wondering if it did it both sides. Yes, the Federation of Uganda Employers is a premium organization, if I could just say that in 1 minute. We're the umbrella organization for all employers in Uganda, founded in 1958. So at this moment, I would wonder how many of your organizations are members of the Federation? Over 60 years. Not that I've been there 60 years, eh? Don't look at the gray hair, but it's okay. I could be, yes. So over 60 years, we've been there. And really, we are the voice of employers. Voice of employers in the sense that we empower and speak on both economic and social issues, and this is a social issue which is very, very pertinent still to the underlying topic today that we're talking about in terms of empowering women, but also building to the economy and contributing not just to the GDP, but also to leveraging job creation, of course under the ILO tripartite relationship, but also in terms of enforcing employability and skills, upskilling and reskilling of youth, women and other vulnerable groups in this country. So as I stand here, okay, I'll go ahead. Yes, what I was talking about today is really to do with organization. My theme was about how do you develop organization culture that facilitates or enables an inclusive, you know, just go back. Go back, please. Oh. Yes. Okay, it's been an inclusive to enable both equity and financial inclusion. My names are there, you've already seen who I am. And I bring this from an employer's perspective. And some of this, she's talked about record keeping and all of this. I may not go into the record keeping of your business. And one thing I liked about what the Kasita gentleman and the later on the CEO, with all due respect, and the gentleman, the lady and the other gentleman earlier on mentioned very clearly was that this discussion here, now I find myself in a dilemma, madam. This discussion here would benefit, yes, the local woman down there. However, it would start with you at the corporate level, in your organizations. And especially you, because you are the employers. The other is the informal sector. They contribute over 90% to this economy, we know that. But to you, as we're talking about here, and I like what she also said, she said, as we go forward, you should hold the other one's hands, isn't it? So as ladies in this room, I'm not even going to ask the gentlemen, because we have very sound gentlemen in this room. For me to see gentlemen in this room, I'm honored. Gentlemen, I'm really honored, because there are not very many people out there who understand that when we speak about women, we're talking about, oh, women should be above men. No, 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 that's not what we're saying. We're only asking for equity and equality and fairness and decent jobs. That is all. But in a more empowering way and in a more direct and in a more sensible. Please go ahead. I've already moved to the 6th slide, I think, but I'll just say this. This is going to cover my presentation. My presentation is really to set the scene. And even as I set, as I set the scene, it's basically to, as I set the scene, the first thing we talked about here is the organization. I know we have the ladies who are in the informal sector. And remember, as the Federation, one of the things we're trying to do is to encourage formalization. URSA is here, URSB, and I think the other partners I had, KCC, I think they've left, Kasita are all here. We're encouraging formalization. So when you look at this thing called organization, what are we really talking about? You are actually at the center of the organization. The organization is basically, now I'm talking about culture, but let me go back. The organization is basically how you do things, your systems, your styles, your strategy. I don't even want to mention the word strategy. Your structure, your people. All of us in this room here, very, very critical. But finally, the culture. I don't have a pointer, so I'll use my hand a bit. So what are we talking about when we talk about that? We are saying, as an organization, for you to facilitate inclusive financial inclusion and to be able to know understand equality, then you need to first understand what we're talking about in terms of the organization. All of us here are distinguished. Some of you are doctors, some of you are very high level. You've done all of this, you've gone through all of this. So when we're talking about the organization at your corporate level, think about the organization at the informal level. They do not have this. They do not have structures. They do not have systems in place. They have people, yes, which my colleague from Bank of Uganda clearly mentioned here. You employ the people, but at the end of the day, the way you lead this will either determine how equitable you are as an organization, or how diverse you are, or how inclusive you are, in terms of your policies. Next slide, please. I think he left the statistics, which I think all of us provided, but we can share that. I'll just go ahead. I just wanted to show you this slide, just to get your mind thinking and to reawaken what we're talking about, and to really let you know how serious organization culture is linked to equitable jobs, but also decent jobs. According to, there was research that he's moved away, but according to ILO, right now, the world is being empowered to ensure that jobs are decent. When we're talking about decent jobs, they fall in 4 categories. We're talking about your right to work. We're talking about having social dialogue to be able to be presented at work. We're talking about your welfare in terms of how the systems and the working conditions attribute to you, but also how meaningful that work is. We'll share this later, yes. And so when we talk about that, remember we're talking about equity and we're talking about financial inclusion, isn't it? So now we are saying the culture of the organization is definitely your belief system and your behaviors. That has a direct correlation to the results of the organization. And what are we talking about in terms of your results? You forgive me, I'm moving because I'm a trainer, so I love interacting, moving in the crowds. So when you see me next to you, please bear with me. Financial performance of both you, the corporate, but think of the other woman that we're talking about, that the gentleman, allow me call you Mr. Kasita, please. I love that name, yeah. The gentleman talked about, how are they performing? Are they inclusive? And we're talking about financial inclusion. Yes, access, the impact. Are they really getting access? You mentioned all the data here, I'll not repeat that. But also in terms of C, which is the socioeconomic environmental impact. You need to ask yourself these questions. Is our culture as an organization leading to financial inclusion and impacting the environment, the social and economic? That is a question I leave to you really. And for any institution to be effective, definitely to measure what you always call about your strategic objectives and all of this, it will be measured based against these objectives here, very, very clearly, but differently played out, like doctors agreeing with me. And for you to be able to measure your performance, if you're going to move from a state of startup business to a state of probably middle level to the state of the full at the high level where you've set up your business and systems, then at the end of the day, your emissions, your energy, your recycling, all of these have to be measured very, very clearly. Please go to the next. What are we talking about? I'll not even repeat the words, but I want to just use exactly that. When we talk about how we need to develop our organization culture, we're literally saying how you do things every day. How do you do the things you do? Remember, there is the way, the policy. There's the written book, that is the policy. But there is the invisible organization culture. So at the end of the day, it's very important for us to know that in defining our organization culture or in developing our organization culture to facilitate diversity, but also equality and financial inclusion, then our organization really needs to point to what matters most. Secondly, it needs to point to our norms. Then it also needs to define who we are. Defining the appropriate attitudes, if I could call it. So at the end of the day, your organization culture is amplified by the behaviors of your leaders, please note, and everybody in this room is a leader. I'm graduating you to that because you're a leader in your home, you're a leader in the society, in your church, in your mosque, wherever you are, or even for your nieces, aunties, uncles, or grandma, you're a leader. So your behavior is amplified, then embedded in the way you do your practices every day, the way you do business. Then thirdly, your shared values, things you believe in, the assumptions you hold. Why do you do the things you do every day? Why do you do the things you do every day? Why do you wake up and come to URA? Why do you wake up and come to Bank of Uganda, to Kasita? I'm the CEO, I'm the president. I'm the receptionist in Kasita, Goldie. Why do I wake up and come? I'm not saying how. I'm asking, what is your why? The moment you're able to answer that for yourself as a person or in your business or in your organization, then your antenna of inclusiveness starts to rise up. Then also fourthly, in terms of visibility, I've already talked about this, what you do every day, day to day. But lastly, also your evidence of the group attitude. In our organizations, we're not islands. We work in departments. The ladies in the market work with suppliers, the entire supply chain, if I could call it. Now, that entire group determines the culture of how you do business, isn't it? Whether you're in the market selling tomatoes, the way you sell those tomatoes is linked to the way you interact with the person you bought it from the market, the one who transported it, the one who planted the tomato, the one who put the chemicals. Doctor, you know this very well. I'm trying to look for the right words in agriculture. Yes, so all of that put together will lead to the way you behave and the way you do the things you do. Please go to the next. I just want to show you this, and I'm not going to say much, but when you look at this graph, it explains how our performance or how our business, both financial performance and all this leads, is associated to culture. The moment you apply high performance, there will be high financial performance or even performance in terms of behaviors and attitude. The moment you have low performance, definitely your culture is questionable. I'm not talking about the culture where you were born. I might have been born in Karamoja, I have gone through school or not gone through school, but I'm doing something in Owino. But the way I do things every day will determine who I am, isn't it? And it will also result into the output, in terms of the outcomes, in terms of the profits or the dividends that I get from my business. That's what I'm trying to drive at. I'm trying to bring this graph to the, you know, he challenged us, to the lady out there, the rural woman, as much as possible. Yes. And just look at this. In terms of, up there talks about sustainability. We're talking about the economy right now. We're talking about how the woman can be facilitated, literacy skills in terms of financial literacy, and all of this. Then how can we ensure sustainability? Meaning that this person needs to understand themselves as a person first. And why? They need to answer the question, why? Am I just doing the business because the lady from Bank of Uganda opened a business there, so I just do copycat? We need to let the ladies know to get their niche. Can we start, like gentleman Kasita said, can we build their capacities in areas of their passion? Business with passion. But you find that most of us do things because another person is doing it. Even in organizations, let me bring it back to you who are seated here. You could be employed in that department, but the way you do things is because I've seen she writes her report on time and I have to mimic what she does. What is unique about you to ensure that your culture, linked to your performance, linked to your financial sustainability, and also at the end of the day, definitely, your pocket will grow and the economy and the services will be at where we want it to be. We will be less of complainants. You know, we complain a lot, huh? Ah, government this, ah, government that, ah, government this. What are you doing in your seat? You may say, I have no finances, I don't have the what, but you have a voice. You have the hand to write. You have a lady to empower, to hold down there. Instead of them encourage them to use the little that they have to be able to ensure sustainability. Next, please. I'm going to move fast now. Yes, this one. I want us to look at, we've talked, I'm not going to mention the research. Thank God he moved ahead, which was good for me, because all of you have mentioned that research. And we'll share this later. I need you to associate equality and financial inclusion to this iceberg. I'm trying to, I don't have a pointer, but I'll try to do this. every single day when we wake up, the way we do the things we do is linked to this iceberg here. And each of us has this in our lives. Leave the organization culture. Now this is you. Let me talk about us as individuals and your business. There are things that are visible we see every day, isn't it? When you come to, it comes to read the books, the receipts are there and all of this. But there are things are behind the background that we do not see, that influence the things that we see. So my question here is, at the end of the day for us, as we talk about developing organization culture to facilitate equity, equality, and financial inclusion, what are we really saying? Are our processes right? In terms of doing things, are our structures right? But also the people, who are you hiring on the job? I'm meaning your business. I'm not talking about office. Let's leave office. Because now I'm trying to tilt this as much as possible to even apply to the local woman down there. But also even the man out there. Because at the end of the day, we need equitable men to stand up and speak on behalf of women also. The women will speak on their behalf. So your belief system, your shared assumptions, your perceptions, your traditions. Oh, I came from there, so you know. At the end of the day, what we see is who you are, your vision. What we see is your goals. What we see is the procedures, the things that you do on a daily basis. Everything you do on a daily basis defines who you are and becomes part of your culture. Go ahead. So now we are saying an inclusive. Well, how does for the employer space, how does an inclusive workplace look like? Yes, I know we have the employment law and it has all this maternity leave. We have all of these good policies in our places. But do some of us really apply those policies in our places? What about that woman, the rural woman there? Do we really apply them? Does she even know the employment law? She doesn't know her rights. So we who are a little enlightened, why not take the message to them, even on a pro bono basis? You don't have to be like me, a consultant, and you go and charge them. No, I can partner with you and go along, with URA or URSB or Bank of Uganda. I can go along with you. And we offer them this opportunity to know what needs to be known. Information sharing. That is one of the biggest things we lack. Like they say, if you want to hide something from an African, put it in a book. But I want to defy that. I don't agree with that. That is an insult to Africa. A very big insult. We're very intelligent people. The Greeks actually came and learned from Africa to be able to get the intelligence and where they are today. An inclusive culture where we can empower equality and inclusion has to be a culture of trust. Without trust, forget it. That is the bedrock. That is that is where it starts from. Are you able to trust that lady? Let me talk to the corporate environment first. Are you able to trust that lady to go on maternity leave and really be on maternity leave without disturbing her do work? And most of these, at times, I report to a lady boss, but she's the answer pressing me. I don't know if I'm driving the point home, but it will come. It will come. Do we have a common purpose and meaningful work? Meaningful. Don't just hire me for hiring me. No. Hire me to make a contribution to your organization. If I am not going to contribute to the big picture, I don't want to use the word strategy. I'm avoiding it as much as possible. If I'm not going to contribute to your goals, then what am I doing there? Am I just sitting space? Presentism? Some of our workplaces, we're talking about the informal sector, but some of our workplaces need serious retrenchment. I'm not advocating. But, cultural competence. Do people know the things that mean to you in your business, in your organization? Do they know why you exist? Do they know the value system, why you behave the way you do every single day? Why, I remember, I think it was, the deputy director, Wanda, yes. I'm trying to remember the names, who mentioned here how they've gone through this project and some of the researches, and they're coming to the third year. Do your people even understand, have the competence to understand that the 3 years project development or review of the time, they've understood why they've done the reasons they've done. What is their contribution at the end of the day? But also appreciating both individual but also group attributes in the workplace. And if you put this to a lady's side, the female side, women Some women are in leadership. Some women need to really be put in leadership positions. Some of them are ready. But how inclusive is our workplace? Do our policies allow for the female to grow in the ranks? Or we have a cutoff point, they call it a glass ceiling, a cutoff point for the ladies. When you reach there, all the ladies stop there. That is your level. I would love to see, yes, I would love to see Madame Rosette be the governor of Bank of Uganda. Why not? Why not? Seriously. She's here. She has the data, she has the brains, she has everything. Why not? I actually expected a lady to know that ladies to do the same job. At the national level, at regional level, at local level, I see you find a lady very competent with all her masters, doctors, and they'll come to the interview and you ask them a simple question, very simple, of their salary, and someone will tell you what you have, what is on your scale, and I'm like, really? Men have a very high negotiating power. They're a little aggressive. So it is time for us ladies to get up, take our place. Because we have the brains, come on. We have the brains. We have to have equity there in the workplace. But also access to opportunities, like I was saying earlier on. If you look at your policies at the workplace, do they promote you fairly? Or you have to really work for the next 10 years to get that director position? Or 20 years in the same organization? By the time you're doing 20 years, you're retiring. Some things can be done. Sense of belonging, very key. The gender, we need to apply a gender lens to be able to understand that the employer proposition, value proposition, has to be gender sensitive, very intentional. Your policies have to change, whether it is the government, it has to. I know a lot is being done, we appreciate that, but a lot can be done. When you look at statistics compared to other countries, of course Norway and the other countries are big there, we want to be there, but they have a gender parity that is uncomparable globally. Intentionality, apply to that. Then lastly, of course, respect. And respect, I want to say this from a point that you sit in a board meeting or you're seated in a meeting, and some of us ladies, we don't speak. We'll keep quiet and you have the points. And then when they tell you to speak, you speak. Then they forget your point. Then I'm not being a gentleman, with all due respect. I'm trying to highlight facts that have been researched and which are real in the workplace, because I come from an employer's workplace. You find that after the lady has spoken, the point she mentioned, it is disregarded. The gentleman who spoke it, they'll pick the same point and re-emphasize that point. What does that tell you? Respect, sense of belonging, inclusiveness. So before even we talk about financial inclusion, before we even get there, it's real. It's right at home where we are. I just want us to do a little exercise very quickly. I want us to assess either our businesses, for the business people who are seated here, or yourselves. And remember, I graduated all of us to leaders. Everybody in this room is a leader. If you could answer this question for me. Are you as leaders visibly acting as change agents and role models of inclusive and inclusive culture in organizations? I'm just asking. I'm just saying. So it is time for you to evaluate yourself as a person. Am I where I am in my business, there where I'm selling tomatoes, wherever it is? But right now I want to bring it back to the corporate level, because you in this room, you need this. Before you go out to the local woman there, you need to empower yourselves. Like the saying goes, you cannot give what you don't have, isn't it? So, are you as leaders visibly acting as change agents and role models of an inclusive culture? Both inclusive in terms of financial inclusion, but also equality. Are we doing that? Purposeful leadership, in other words. Then secondly, is your inclusion explicitly part of the expectations that you look out for? For example, when you're hiring your people or your leaders, that is a very good indicator. You can have it as part of your talent pools and interviewing and selection processes. You ensure that the people you're going to hire, or the process of hiring, has an element of inclusion specifically. But also thirdly, in terms of engagement, do you have a deeper understanding of your different people's experiences? You know, many people come to your offices, many people come to your businesses early morning, Good morning, madam. Good morning, sir. It ends there. Get to know your people beyond me, beyond the face you're seeing here. It's very, very important. That impacts on who you are as an organization, as a business. Even whether I'm selling, I'm a business lady. Even when I'm in that salon, I tell people, I'm like, okay, the customer comes. I need to find out what my staff are doing. We may be few, but my team, we have to interact. When I see change in attitude, thank God my background, I'm a psychologist first, so I'm able to notice very quickly a change, and I'm very keen. There's a mood. I try as much as possible. So are we able to do that? To ensure that their experience of sense of belonging and inclusion is really catered for. But also in terms of system alignment. I'm saying system alignment because each of us in this group, in this room here, comes from an organization or comes from very big bodies like we've mentioned here, with all due respect. And some of the organizations are very aligned in terms of systems. Now let me ask the question, are they people-centric? That is something else. I'll leave it there. Most of them are. The large corporations, yes. But middle, small, startups, it is profit, margin. You come in, you're sick, you go on maternity leave, you give birth on Caesar, you come back the next week. I was interacting with some clients and I was like, okay. We actually, as a federation, we're going to sensitize them. We are going to do sensitization for some of those SMEs because we told them this is against the law. It's against the law. Okay, we know you cannot stay without the person for 3 months because they're small businesses, otherwise they will close. Actually, they'll hire someone else to take your job, meaning you've lost the job. And she's a woman. So what do we do in that case? There are ways we can have interventions there. Then lastly, representation. This is something that the federation does, but also as leaders here, ensuring that we have visible progress in terms of mixed representations across levels. Do we listen to our staff? Do we listen to our people? Do you listen to your customers? For us who are business people in here. And you integrate those feedbacks into your service provision, into your product development. Do we do that? I'm just saying, please move forward. I just want to show you this. I'm not going to go this. So there are the 5 principles where this one, in terms of in developing or creating an inclusive culture, and this is very key. Please have purposeful leadership, very key for you. It doesn't matter at what level you are in, whether you're selling tomatoes, whether you're in that saloon, in that Kafunda, you know, down there in Kawempe, somewhere there. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is very, very key if we're going to achieve the change that we want to see in this country. Then secondly is ensure that change starts with you. Change starts, I like what Mahatma Gandhi said, you know. Change starts with us. Be the change you want to see in the world. There's no time for complaining, but there's time for us to go and take action going forward. Very, very important. Very quickly, the system alignment, that is one we've already gone through. Then the engagement, ensure that your team, including the cleaner, the one who is opening the gate for you, that man there, that gentleman or lady at the security, is engaged at a broader level. Very, very key. And lastly, of course, represent them. As employers, we do this, but represent them. I will just show this slide. We'll share this. Federation of Uganda Employers exists under a tripartite relationship with government on one side, the workers and the employers. And under this, if you look at the conventions of the ILO, they are ILO is International Labour Organization, has put several conventions which are related to equity, financial inclusion, but also what you talked about, the SDGs, which I'll go in very shortly. And when you look at all of this first and foremost comes, yes, in terms of a human right to everybody, but it's something that empowers women to get to where they need to get in the workplace. It promotes a culture of inclusion and avoids a culture of discrimination. And when you look at these conventions here, each of them, domestic, these ones are very recent. When you look at HASH, this is something that the world has struggled with a lot, and it's a silent killer. For you to get that promotion, I'm a lady, this is now not business, I'm talking the corporate world, there's a lot of harassment and violence at the workplace, but very silent. Because when you bring it out, they'll ask you for evidence. Then when we go and investigate the evidence, they'll say it was the lady's fault. I'm dressed decently, I'm not dressed in a short skirt which is stopping here like this coat. but I get violence. Then you say it's my fault, yet my dress maybe stops here, or even here. You see that, eh? It doesn't make sense. So there's a lot to do with, so there's a lot to discuss on this, but I'll just move forward. I just wanted to show you this as a slide. I've already actually mentioned this slide, and I was basically speaking about equity in terms of equitable treatment, but also equal opportunity, which I already explained. This is what I want us to link to, because we've talked about the SDGs to really help us understand that organization culture has a broader hand. It is beyond me, it is beyond you, it's beyond your department. It affects the economy, it affects everything about us. Who you wake up every day to be, meaning you as a person, determines everything in the economy. And you will say that, but I'm not government. My dear, government is people, so you're a person. Yes, it does. Look at that. The way you carry yourself as a person has a direct correlation both from a functional side, but also a constitutional side in terms of your belief systems, directly into the SDGs, and directly leads to this. The five P's of sustainable development, which are very, very linked to what we have just discussed here this morning. Go ahead, please. I'll not go through the barriers. My colleagues went through the barriers, and there are quite a lot of barriers that that are there. But one thing I just want to say here is that the barriers that impede women's success, both in business, whether it's corporate, wherever you call yourself, are multifaceted. They're dimensional. And when you look at that list, and the list all of you, the previous speakers mentioned, there are quite many. Quite many. But one thing that I liked, a quote that one of my role models, yes, Dr. Maya Angelou, she's late, but she still remains my role model because she speaks a lot of, speaks to me as a person. She mentioned that, how important is it for us to recognize and celebrate the heroes and she-heroes? You remember what a doctor said earlier on? Dr. Topista? We do a lot of things as women, but we don't even recognize ourselves. We beat ourselves too much, by the way. I'm not saying don't beat yourself, but it's enough now. It's time for you to get out of the kitchen where you've beaten yourself, you know. It's time for you to sit at the podium. It's time for you to sit in the boardroom. It's time for you to break that glass ceiling where the world has told us, and men, everyone, that we cannot go beyond this. It's just very important. And for me to see the gentlemen in this room, with all due respect, I look at you as people who advance the cause to ensure that equity is promoted. And when I talk about equity, I'm not talking fair pay to women only. No, equity across. Of course, with the generational, cultural biases and all of this, we know when we talk about equality and what, it first leads the gender role to women because of the biases, which are multi-generational. I understand that. But how important is it for us each day to get up and celebrate the heroes and the she-heroes every single day? Every single day. It would take us, it would make a difference. I'm going to ask you to do something which you have not done. Please, look at the person, I think on your left, I don't know. If you don't have someone on this side, turn on the other side. Just quickly. Tell them something nice, please. Just tell them something nice. Celebrate them. Gentlemen, it's okay, please. Yes, gentlemen too, yes. Tell them something nice. You came in this room from morning, you only said hello to your neighbor, you had their names, maybe their professor. Just tell them something nice to lift their spirit up. Come on. We're going through economic world, I don't know, recession, whatever you call it, Bank of Uganda will tell you. But do we take a second to stop, think, rethink, take a long look at ourselves and just appreciate? So I'm here to appreciate you. Yes, I just want to share, there are only two left, and I just want to quickly share. In terms of the employers and of course policies, a lot has been mentioned. You talked about mechanization, and this is something that the ILO, the employers, what is really advocating, and of course working with governments. One very key intervention to bridge this gap is the stabilization of the macroeconomy, not even the micro, the macro first. Your money policies, the exchange rates, the interest rates. When we talk about financial inclusion, she told us they are 25%, 30% per day, per week, something like that. So we need something done about that. Initiatives to improve women's physical access. There's the digital part, but now we're also talking, because we've lived here with the physical access for a very long time, meaning that we need to provide desks and things to ensure that gender sensitiveness is promoted. Then secondly, yes, the mechanization of agriculture. The research he took away, you didn't see, puts 54% of women in Africa, this is Africa yet, in agriculture. 54%. This is not global, this is for Africa only. Now bring it home to Uganda or the region. The numbers are high. Very, very high. Very, very high. That means if we can have technology, make use of the future of work, which is already here, to harness the agricultural sector, look at the agricultural sector through the gender lens. This mother who is tying the child on the back has to go and carry that cassava, that pumpkin, goes and sells it. She's getting actually even losses. She has reached late in the market. The child needs food. She has to come back and make. When you think about all of that, beyond the former woman, then something has to be done there. Reducing the gender gap in financial inclusion would require applying a gender lens to both the domestic and international policy actions. Thirdly is advancing the issue of the demand side constraints. We need to build the capacity of both women and men. But for this purpose, I'll speak about the gender sensitivity of women in terms of improving their financial literacy. You've already mentioned this, so I'll not even go into there. And let them know their rights. There are guidelines. They need to know their rights. But also promoting active labor market programs. This, of course, in partnership with government and the other ministries. The Federation of Ugandan Employers is spearheading this and working with the Ministry of Gender to see. There's a lot of research with, of course, Makerere University also. A lot of research being collected. So what we have, the real-time data. What is it out there in terms of labor market information? What jobs are available to be able to create more jobs to reduce youth unemployment, or even for the woman employment? Because when you look at the statistics versus, I'll tell you to show me that slide later. Oops. I was mentioning the last one, yes. Collect data sensitive, information sensitive to women, so that access and financial services are clear. But also, this you've already mentioned, promoting the inclusiveness of digital finance. And last but not least, in terms of at a global level, when you look at the global level, these are the 4 pillars, very key when it comes to ensuring diversity and women, and gender-sensitive programming, but also in terms of creating decent jobs, reducing youth unemployment, and all the sensitive other vulnerable groups, including women. First is to support the stimulation of the economy and employment, which by this roundtable meeting we're already doing. We're contributing to that. But also supporting enterprise and jobs creation and income. People need to grow their income. Do they know how to grow their income? They start businesses. They don't have any business skills. They call it skills? Yes. 0. But for me, I start my shop. When they buy, they take. They buy, they take. That is business, as life as usual. I do not do the record keeping that you're saying. 0. So how do we help them go through that? But also, do we help them promote workers' rights? Very important. It may look like it's not your business, but it affects you at the end of the day when the law bites. Then lastly, relying on social dialogue. We have a lot of issues to do with workers and employers, so we encourage social dialogue to be able to address some of this, yes. And lastly is just for you to notice, as the Federation, some of the initiatives that we have, a few that have sampled in terms of ensuring inclusiveness and gender parity are, the Federation operates the Women Executive Charter, which looks at women at executive level, does a lot of trainings with the board, with Norway, in partnership with Norway, and they are placed in board positions. And now you will notice that on actually most of the government boards apart in NSSF, the employers there, and the this organization recommends women and also men to be placed on some of those. But also we do leadership. We have a leadership program which is specifically for women. The corporate woman. How does she break the glass ceiling? How does she navigate the gender challenges, dynamics at work? Then the employment executive, this one we do with ILO in Turin. Then we have the job portal where we are promoting SMEs and the ladies you talked about, all of that, to ensure them create more jobs, but also be able to provide their services out there. And of course, collaborations, this one I've talked about. One thing that I've left out specifically is the formalization of businesses, which we really encourage. Upskilling and Reskilling Forum Uganda, FUE, of course, it's in partnership with government and the other stakeholders. FUE currently chairs that. And one of the things that is being done is to, we have a lot of semi-skilled people who are like the Katwe people. They're doing a lot of work, or even in saloons, they've never got papers. So there's an initiative where these people are being recognized. They go through a very simple evaluation, recognized and given a certificate in those skills so that they can be employed in the market. I think that is, yes? Is it there? Oh. Asanteni sana. Thank you so much.
Bigger round of applause for Goldie. Thank you so much, Goldie, for that. If there is anything that everything that you will forget, do not forget one, which talks about the work environment. Sometimes we are so busy chasing around businesses and making the profit, and we forget about the people that help us do that. Those are the employees. My boss at office always says, Dr. Kinkarisa, that people sometimes, or in most cases, do not leave workplaces. They leave people. Do you get that? That you just don't wake up and say, no, I am leaving, I am leaving GMT because I no longer want to work here. Because that's basically a structure, it's a building. But who consists of that structure? The people who are working in. Boss or that supervisor who can't listen, who cannot understand, who is not human. So you're saying, because of the conditions around here, let me leave Teopista, she's not being a nice person. Let me leave Mildred because she's making my life hard. And that is very true, that when you decide to leave, you're leaving because of a fellow human being, and that is what it shouldn't be. We'll have a final speaker for the day, and this one is from Uganda Revenue Authority, speaking about the interventions that have been put in place by URA. I'll give you the last 15 minutes of the day to speak about what has been done to support women, micro, small and medium enterprises. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me Clemency Obusinje from the Uganda Revenue Authority. There is a lot that has been put in place, EFRIS, Manya what, I don't know if people are getting all that information, digital stamps, but how are you helping the women? Let me help sanitize this for you.
Thank you so much. You made it very difficult for the tax collector to stand between you and your lunch. A very good afternoon to you ladies, and a few men blessed to be among women. Good to have you as our ambassadors in the workspace, in the environment where we live. As introduced, my name is Businje Clemencio Narongo. Yes. Let me extend so that you see Narongo. So this is a tax collector, but also tax collectors, God can bless them to be Narongos, and so I'm one of those. And we are glad to be here specifically to partner with people who are creating impact out there, especially for women. Women in business, women aspiring to be business, and those who are still dreaming yet to catch their vision. And so it is humbling to have this opportunity to speak to you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen present, and also following the speakers that have been so eloquent. You make it difficult for those of us who may not be good speakers, but we believe and pray that we will be able to communicate and pass the message of a taxman, but also what is URA doing at this time in empowering women in business, especially when we talk of financial inclusion. And so permit me to begin by just giving you a simple quote, and this was by Winfred, that the biggest adventure you can ever take is to live the life of your dream. I repeat, the biggest adventure you and I we have today is the day we have. It can ever be the life you start to live and living in your dream. So what is your dream? What is your dream? And maybe as women seated in this room this afternoon, you need to ask yourself, am I living as the strongest woman I would want to be, so that you become a role model for your daughter? And when your son has grown into a man, he knows what to look for in a woman. And that will create the culture you take in the business. But let me return to my presentation this afternoon, and it should be brief. Kindly, you could put it up. What is our presentation? If it is not coming, I can still proceed. And I had hoped that Golda, you are going to speak about bookkeeping, because it makes it easier for a tax person when people know the basic principles where to begin from, so that when we say pay as you earn and earn as you pay, you know where to begin from. The discussion in the room would be different. But just imagine when I come and I look at your face, maybe you borrowed the neighbor's jacket and you are looking so superb, and then I just make my estimation based on your outlook. It could be misleading. And yet taxation shouldn't be about feeling, it shouldn't be about the looks, it should be what it is. Nothing else to add, nothing to deduce. And so my presentation, the role of URA in supporting women SMEs post-COVID economic recovery. And we will be brief. We will look at URA core mandate, and we will look at what are we doing, incentives that we are offering, and we will also try to expound the support. But in what we do, it will not be logic for us to talk about taxation and we don't bring it to appreciate what is compliance, what are the tax reforms that we have, and then how do you plug in. Because most businesses, when you look at the statistics, I believe these were shared, and you've all noted or you are aware that the incubation period is between 0 to 3 years. And that is where most of our businesses lie. I'm glad you have returned our strategic partner, Kasita. Thank you so much for giving us a call and a challenge, but also working with us. We do appreciate your partnership, your support, and please, we are willing to listen. We are willing to engage. We can only be better at the skies open the opportunities. We cannot count that we have reached. But where we were 10 years ago or 15 years ago is not where we are today. And so our mandate as URA is really to provide revenue services. But these revenue services of collecting taxes, our mandate and our vision is to offer excellent revenue services. Please note that the work we do, tax collection, even in the times of the Bible, is that one aspect that is regarded and associated with sinners. And that's why Jesus was challenged, how can you spend your time with Zacharias, a sinner, a tax collector? But even tax collectors can go to heaven. Can you imagine? As long as you do your work with passionate professionalism and with integrity, heaven is an opportunity for all of us. If it were in church, we would say amen. And then our second mandate is really to facilitate trade by providing an enabling environment to foster ease of doing business. I know some of you have doubts in your hearts. It is true, we must speak reality because of the experiences you could have gone through. But by and large, when you go to the, if you were to draw a line, a number line, where do we lie? We do facilitate business. But should you be unfortunate that yours is collapsing because of the taxman, a check for you? Did you follow the regulations? Did you follow the law? Or you believe that because I am the one making the money, it is all mine and there is nothing to return to the government? Please note that when we talk of taxation, tax is a non-quid pro quo. You pay something for nothing in return. And the doctrine of the paradox of equity comes in. Should then we make a load beginning from the homes of those who have contributed much because they have given much to the government? Or we should avail the services to the poor people because they deserve it and they are in need? What is equity? The inclusivity becomes a question. Marry it with the paradox of taxation being a non-quid pro quo. Where do we stand? And then lastly on our mandate is to provide guidance and implementation of tax laws and regulations. And quite often the public needs to be aware that the laws are not enacted by URA, the tax laws, so to speak. The tax laws are made by the people you and I, we elect. If you go and you just pick either a bus or you pick an umbrella, the other one is which one? Okay, you can list all the different symbols, not to sound any political, but just to make you appreciate that depending on the caliber of people you have sent, determine the kind of laws we will have and the impact these laws will have when implemented to the dot to you and me, the Ugandans. So next time, vote wisely, vote people of substance, not which party, not which color, but people who can create value. And these people who have maybe tested business, that when you talk of agriculture, the person has a farm, knows what it takes to make a farm. If we talk of suffering from loans and recovery, they know what it means because they have seen their assets being taken over by the banks. But if you don't, you can only think that 40 million is good enough for you to make any decision. I did not intend to sound like that, but that was a by the way. And any comment I make, these are my personal views. These are not of the Commissioner General. Should they deviate from the standard principle? I take personal responsibility. So the things you are passionate about, please note, they are not random. They are your calling. What are you passionate about? If you are passionate about seeing women empowered, it becomes your calling. It doesn't become a random thought that today I will speak about women inclusivity. Today I will go and talk about gender equality. It becomes a calling. What are you passionate about? And if you are passionate about empowering women, you and I who have been privileged, we have a greater calling on us to reach out to the others. Whom did you come with when you were invited for this engagement? It's just a challenge. Please don't answer, but ask yourself. At least I'm privileged that I came with one of my staff, Helen Takoba. Please stand up. To empower her. And if I gave her a microphone, she would tell you. Yesterday I told her, Helen, tomorrow you are going with me. Actually I told her, you will make the presentation. She said, no longer I cannot. I said, how will you be empowered? So let us be deliberate. I think surely, MC, you are being unfair. People used an hour speaking. You are giving a tax person 15 minutes. Can you imagine? Maybe I am not communicating. I need to start communicating. But I want to beg that I was allocated 30 minutes. Please give me the 30 minutes. But should it be unfair, then I will summarize. But 15 minutes? Well, God help me. So let me proceed. For us to talk about what we are doing, we must let you know that if you don't comply, then you will trigger other action, notwithstanding what we are doing to empower women in business. And so if I had time, I would take you through the compliance pyramid or the compliance model so that you plug in as a woman who is in business, small and medium, beginning and yet to begin. Where do you start from? Begin by having a tax registration number, which we call an identification number, tax identification number. And this number becomes the next number of importance in your life next to the national ID. Because if you go to open a bank account for business, you must have that number. If you are going to ask for to get a passport or to get a driving permit, you must have that number. So next to the importance of your document in your wallet, you have the national ID. Please have your tax registration number, which we call a TIN. When you have it, you are beginning the journey of starting business in a formal way. And today, even when you do business, just passively mentioning that if you are a registered person and you continue to do business with people not registered, you will incur expenses, and time will come for you to claim those expenses. They won't be allowed. Why? If everybody could contribute according to their level of income, we will deliver our country from economic dependence to a level of being independent. And the debt delivery of our country from the debt obligation begins each one of us doing something. What are we doing? So get your team. And get it, know it. Don't give the agent a tax registration or tax identification number is for free. Now when you have it, then we begin the journey of whether you are willing to comply. If you are willing, what do we need to do for you? But to tailor our services, we have also moved and said that those who are compliant, then they should benefit as follows. And so if you went to the next slide, you will look at the benefits of being tax compliant. And the list is long, as I said. I won't go through it because I have to comply a mass of ceremonies so that we manage time. But all these are benefits, and somebody will still ask, what is in it for me? If you are making your business legitimate, then there will all be a lot of it for you. But if you want to do briefcase business, you will make it today, tomorrow you will lose everything. Even Trump is involved and is being taken on the tax scandal. He has been the president of the United States of America. So it is never over until it is over. Let's proceed. So I'm not going through each one of them, but we can read through in the interest of time. And we are saying that for us to reach out to the different taxpayers in their different categories, we must have what we call tax reforms. And our tax reforms or administration tax reforms are tailored to what we call tax segmentation. That we cannot all be the same in the different businesses and the different jurisdiction. We have those who are very big, whom we call the large taxpayers. So the solutions that we need to apply to these people and the kind of engagement we should have is different. For example, we are hearing of the IFRIS, the fiscalized receipt and invoices. It is not applying to everyone. If you are not VAT registered, you are not in that requirement. Why are we doing this? Segment your taxpayers under the KYC, knowing your clients so that you are able to have tailor-made initiatives to reach out. And this will determine the kind of the outreach we are doing. And so we've created the different segments, but the segment for today is the small and medium. And so permit me to take you to the next slide to let you know that focusing on the small and medium enterprises, we must know that this is where the greatest tax comes from. It need to be noted that the contribution you and I make is immense in terms of consumption. For example, VAT is a consumption tax. And who pays it is the consumer. As you take that water, you are actually paying the tax that is filed and made by either the water on our tables, which company, or the airtime you consume and the data you put. When MTN makes the return, say, wow, we've made it, because you are the payer. Just think through it. You and I, the final consumers, are the taxpayers. So when you hear them boasting, when we say the largest taxpayers, they are conduit of you and I's contribution to this economy. Again, if it was in church, we would have clapped, but next time we shall remember to clap. Let's move to the incentives in the interest of time. The incentives, we've tried and we will continue. Again, please note that we sell difficult services, non-quid pro quo. But that notwithstanding, what are we doing? That for the small and medium enterprises, we looked at the desire and the need, the outcry there. And one of the challenges, or one of the issues we have gotten the feedback is the complication, the challenging of our tax returns. Tax return is the form you fill to make a declaration of your taxes. To say that, look, me, if I'm registered for rental, I only received 2 million because other tenants did not pay me. We were in lockdown. And that will be it, unless otherwise that we have information to brief to the contrary. But we will never know unless you tell us. So that kind of dialogue is what we call a tax return. And the tax return has been simplified so that you are able, especially you and I, the small and the medium, to fill it or submit it on time with less cost, that you can do it yourself without necessarily engaging the tax consultant. Please note, earlier said, because of segmentation, the large and the medium taxpayers and the high net worth individuals, etc., those ones are mandated to have a tax consultant to fill their return. But you and me, the small and micro, we are allowed to do our own return. Please, when we call you, and as we partner with Grace Marshall, please to do this education and sensitization, come so that we empower you to reach out to the down of the pyramid. Muntu wa wansi. We can do this together. The country is for us all, and we can do it together. So we've tried to simplify our procedures in terms of the tax returns, in terms of the TIN registration. People used to have a nightmare to get to do the TIN. But now you submit, you have your TIN. What remains is the back-end validation. So we try to see how do we reduce the cost of doing business in Uganda given the economic recovery from the COVID pandemic. And then we are saying that we are also creating more payment options that you can pay your taxes at the comfort of your home. You can pay using mobile money, you can pay using e-banking, you can walk to our offices, you can use your MasterCard, your Visa card, all intended to reduce. If you must drive to come to Nakawa to pay today, save that money for fuel. It could be actually what you are paying for. Look at how we have made it so easy to get a driving license today. You've made a payment, you walk there, you go with it. A lot is yet to happen, only if we work together. So it is all intended to empower you and me, and women should not miss the mark. Because when you look at this small business, go down there. If you walked in the central business district, I'm a businesswoman too, beyond being a tax administrator. And I can guarantee you that when you walk to these different arcades, 90% are women. And if all those people are facilitated to save 10,000 that you would use on a border to come to Nakawa to make a payment of your presumptive tax assessment, that you pay it at the comfort of your shop, how much will we save? You can do the math. And then we are saying that automation is also another incentive we have to make it easy that you can transact. Even at midnight, you wake up, you can log on our web portal and you are able to reach us. We have a 24 call center available to offer support. But beyond that, we have what you would want to hear, exemption to the small and macro beginners. If your turnover, you are a startup business, and ladies and gentlemen, if your turnover is 10 million and below, you are in the exempted category. What an opportunity for you to start and you grow your business. Live from one birthday to another birthday, from 1 million to 10 million, and you enjoy the tax holiday. You don't pay. Your tax obligation is 0. At least you have caught the vision. And then proceeding from tax incentives, please note that there are more tax incentives for the big and medium enterprises. When you grow to that level, you will benefit. For example, when we talk of agriculture, I like my colleague from Bank of Uganda. When you are involved in agro-processing and you add value and you export 80% of your produce, your income is exempted from income tax, and the VAT input you incur is all given back to you because you create foreign earning for our country. Yes. All these are incentives. Indeed, we need to be more aggressive in creating awareness so that people know where to invest for tax saving. And when you save, you create a multiplier effect through reinvesting the same income. And then should you be involved in and you employ more than 80%, you have the disabled people, again you have an exemption. But also, this one is not good news, but information for women. The ladies on the other table, please listen to this. This morning I was listening to the radio when I was driving to office, and they were talking about the former vice president and his lady friend. His lady friend. You've heard the case before courts of law in dispute of property. Now I want you to listen to this, so that when should God forbid to be born is a chance, to die is a command. Getting married is a desire, and we walk down the aisle with happiness. But separation is that bad experience you wouldn't want to imagine. But God forbid should it happen, when you get the assets you share, should you sell, the income you get is exempted from tax. Free. So it is again to empower you that should this experience happen, don't walk empty-handed by selling and you have nothing for upkeep and your children. You have this reverted to you as alimony distribution and sharing of your belonging. There are many exemption that we could talk about, but in the interest of time, permit me to leave it at that. So let's look at, in terms of education, what are we doing? We are doing the following in terms of outreach. We have what we call the tax catering. I don't know whether this, okay. The tax catering, and this is through, we are doing financial literacy to the muntu wawansi. Tax categories are this kind of education or sensitization program that URA conducts through either we do a workshop or we procured some buses, we drive say to Ibanda and be in a stage and then talk about anything, but also have client come in for free services. If you need to file a return, you will walk in and then you will be supported. If you have a question, you will be guided. But also we have taken it a notch higher. We've tried to simplify our tax education materials, and we have made them into different languages. As we speak beyond English, we have Luganda, tax education materials, we have the Luo, then we have the Runyachitara. I think we are working on the artist, what is it called, the language? That one there. So we are trying to break the silos of thinking that only the elite who can speak good English are the ones who should be sensitized and engaged. We are breaking the barriers, taking it down to every person, because we believe everybody paying a fair share of their taxes, the burden is lighter than few individuals. And then we are also having what we call volunteer income tax assistant. The volunteer tax assistant, what is this? We are going to the universities as people do their final year, pick those students and do hands-on training in tax matters, basic principles of filing a return, of applying for a TIN, so that now when they mix with you and I in the community, they can help you to do these basic things of tax compliance. I think it is a great initiative, and we believe, in my language, in my language there is a saying that you bend the stick when it is still young. When it has grown, some of us, there are some exercises. If you are in UB40 and above, the 40th floor, there are certain things you used to do, but when you try now, you hear the bones cracking and making some sound. Just appreciate God that that is more the change of life. You are transitioning to another level. So in the same way, we believe that this fresh graduate, having this knowledge, because they are the people, she talked about those kind of loans, the kind of age bracket. When they get this loan, then they will begin on the right footing of knowing what to do in terms of legalizing their business and also tax compliance. I'm winding up. I could see you checking. I'm winding up. And as I said, simplifying our tax literature so that we are able to pass on the information to everyone else. But beyond that, we have also opened up our ground floor at Nakawa, Diamond Trust, we have an office. Aponye House, we have an office. Down at Ham Towers, we have an office. At Finance Trust in Katwe, we have an office. And these offices, we call them service centers. Walking as you are. Gone are the days when a taxman had the power, would come swinging the seals like this, and everybody says, to say, things have changed. We speak. We do a dialogue, we empower, we educate, and our services are free. Should you find you are put into a situation of compromise, reach out. Don't die in the situation of compromise. The change we want to see in our country, ladies and gentlemen, is possible if each one of us become a person of integrity. And integrity is you doing the right thing when no one else is seeing you. And as I conclude, look at those pictures. I think some of these, you identify with them. When you look at the crosses the other side, what does it communicate? When you move down here and you look at the supermarket, some of us, we have the corner shop where you go, especially the salary earners, you sign in the book, and when the salary comes, you go and pay. But it's okay if you are in another level where those things don't apply. That applies most, because we are beginning to grow into medium. And we are also transitioning from being a low income earner country to a middle income earner. But that will be possible if we appreciate that a journey over 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And the greatness you are dreaming about is possible if your mind is rightly tuned and you link and connect with the right minds that will inspire you, challenge you. I end with the Bible. The Bible says that irons sharpens iron. That one from here and another one from here, precepts upon principles, makes a bundle. Which bundle are we making as ladies in business, in the workplace? What are we doing? What influence are we bringing on table? And how are we helping the vulnerable women down there selling mandas? You see them falling into the trenches, and some of them, may they rest in peace, they have died because the army, the mighty army of KCC, not to speak about anyone or various badly, because we are all government. But are you the army at home? Are you the army in your environment? Are you the army at the different places where you have influence? Or you are the angel when you come, there is calmness, there is sanity. And we can do this together when we purpose to reach out. Tax education is a noble calling. Paying tax is a golden opportunity, but if you don't take it as a golden opportunity, it becomes a responsibility by constitution. And if you don't comply, we will come for you. We will want you to do it right, and we develop our country together for God and our country. Thank you so much.
A big round of applause for Madame Bosinje. I think she said it all. The good, the bad, yeah? Because, I mean, yes, they have targets in trillions of Uganda shillings to be able to collect. And they also want you to grow, because, I mean, when your business grows, they're able to collect the taxes, and the taxes are able to help us all together. Like she said, it's not them who develop these tax laws, it is in Parliament. Your member of Parliament does. When they collect the money, it goes back to the government, to the consolidated fund. They don't use it as URA. They also have to have a budget from Parliament appropriated to them. So I love the statement, developing Uganda together. It's our country. We need to nurture that particular growth together. I don't want to stand in between you and your next meal or your next plate, but we still have some bites at the back. Please make sure that we clear everything. Let's clear everything, because it was paid for as you are going out. But I want to thank you all. These have been insightful discussions. And let's continue to interact as we get to close off. Let us interact and make sure, get those contacts, get that next appointment. You never know. Your next loan, grant, whatever it is, turnaround for your business will be from your neighbor. So thank you so much for coming through. Thank you for attending and making time. I remain Mildred Tuhaise, and we will catch up soon. But before we go, I am kindly requesting that we're going to take a group photo. And as we do get to take that group photo, we'll have our final remarks from Dr. Topista to just come and say bye to us. She opened this, and she will definitely also be able to send us off. But may God bless you, and journey masses to you. And may God continue to prosper you and all the businesses that you are working on.
After this young girl speaks, when you speak, you feel out of place. I just want to thank everyone that has, been with us from morning up to now. We apologize, we started a little bit late, but maybe as Ugandans we learn one thing. Let's try to keep time. Nobody has talked about the gentleman from UDC. So there is a gentleman in this audience from UDC. Can I request that he waves so that people can get your contact? They have money, so make sure that you get his contact. On behalf of GMT Uganda Networks, I'd like to thank the distinguished guests and panelists, discussants, for participating in this first and very productive roundtable on securing commitments for adoption of women-centered
COVID-19 economic recovery responses. For effective commitments to implementation of women-centered COVID-19 economic recovery phases, one of the most important things we have learned today is the importance of collaborations between different stakeholders. Even if we just take that and we forget everything else, without collaboration, there is nothing we can do as a nation. And I'll just share with you an example. Currently, I got some orders of 43 items to be supplied in Canada. And I contacted the Export Promotion Board. They gave Canada, no, there is so much collaborate. So I was just talking about giving an example of collaboration. So let's all try to support each other and work together. I remember there is a time I got an order of earrings and baskets. Yeah, Hilda, I think, knows the story. And I had to end up giving it to another country in the East African region because our women could not come together on quality. So even as women, when we produce, we have to know the world has now shrunk. We really have to keep certain standards of certain products. Yes, we also learned that the economy is highly dominated by the informal sector, so all interventions must be tailored to suit the needs of the women at the grassroots level. But I always want to challenge everyone, up to when are we going to be referred to as informal? I mean, it's now becoming very difficult to do anything without an ID, without, she said, the TIN number. Yeah, whatever you are doing, if you are selling anything, TIN number. If you are earning anything, so I think this is a good statement for our brothers and sisters, but the world is changing. In the new economic order, I don't think we are going to have people survive so informally. So we have to make sure that whatever we are doing is formal. We talked about building capacity of women to use digital financial solutions, putting into consideration the existing bottlenecks. There is no doubt that the bottlenecks are almost the same for a very long time. So my concern here is, for how long are we going to talk about access to education, confidence? I mean, we really have to change and talk about something different, like cost of data, for instance. That should be our talk now, not that somebody didn't go to school. At least there should be something basic. Partnerships among multiple players are essential. No player can make a big impact alone. Public-private partnerships are vital for the adoption and usage of digital financial services. I'm glad that my friends from URA are here, and we are looking forward to continuous collaboration. One of the items we agreed is to establish digital training centers. It's going to make your work easy. And Florence is here, people from New Faces, New Voices. We have Casita, they've just left. There is a problem downtown. I think people are writing about something. I didn't want to spoil your day because we are closing, but people are bitter. People are becoming poorer. People are expecting so much in such an upside-down environment. Last but not least, we have learned the importance of organizational culture. Thank you so much for the lady from Federation. Yeah, you know, of late, I'm appreciating the importance of that organization. You know, there is so much they are doing, but the question is, as employers, how many people actually put into consideration their mandate? There is something they put up there about respect, dignity, appreciation. And for us, at this age, before you actually sign on to be employed, you ask yourself, am I going to be valued? Yeah? Or am I just looking at the paycheck? And of late, the research has proved that there is a close link between wrinkles, longevity, and the relationships you have, both at work and home. Yeah, this is very, very important, you know. So the capacity to say, this is not a proper working environment for me is very critical for all of us. And I'm glad that of late we are getting so many people saying it's not about the paycheck, but it is about. So it is our responsibility, all of us here, to make sure that our workplaces are conducive. We treat people with respect. I just pray that we can get the presentation that lady, presented. I have no doubt, as Topista and the rest of the team I'm representing, that implementation of these and other initiatives through partnerships will scale up women's resilience in the post-COVID era. And I'm really looking forward to partnerships and doing things that are tangible, measurable, but most importantly, things that will hold a legacy of us being sustained by the Lord to live past this age we are living. I can see people attentive. It is very good at a certain age, even when you are exiting an organization, for people always to refer and said, when Businje was here, she found it like this, she intervened and she left it here. There are some people who rested, they went to be with the Lord, but up to now we still refer to their theories. So it is very, very important to leave a positive legacy. And how do you do it? Making sure that you are, you are concerned about people that are not as fortunate as you. We really have to try and be a voice to the people who have been there, who are there in the lower strata. Some of these people are painfully suffering. I thank you so much, and I pray that the good Lord protects you as you go back home. Don't get tired of us. This is a 3-year project, and we are welcoming different post meetings to make sure that whatever we deliberate on here is not left on the table. I hate that. People who know me well, I don't want us to come here, talk about something, and it ends there. We have to be able to measure after a year and say, this is what we did at the round table, this is what has come out of it. So I will request people to come here. Everybody who is here is important, and I request people to come here for pictures, for our newsletter for South Africa and the rest of Africa. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Can we have the pictures here? Tracy has gone. She has to put together the news. Sarah, can you come and take over? Sarah was not here. She's our media expert. She heads the Native TV. I've gotten 4 questions today, people asking me about Native TV. So.
Hello everyone, please come in front. Josephine, can you kindly guide? Where can I be? I think we are not that many, so we'll have some seats.